Have you ever watched something that completely rewired your brain chemistry?
A procedural network drama might not be your usual pick, but it's ours.
This is The Buddie System, a 911 deep dive podcast hosted by three friends who have DM'd each other enough character dissertations to earn a PhD in media literacy.
I'm Han, coming to you straight from the characters' heads.
I'm Sil, bringing you to the observation deck.
And I'm Rachel, connecting the dots with my red string.
With our powers combined,
No stone is left unturned.
And no buddy is left behind.
Hey Alexa, play 'Tis the Damn Season by Taylor Swift. Welcome to the Buddie System.
Tis the Damn Season by Taylor Swift.
We should remember this whenever we make Sil do the Hey Alexas.
it's the damn season, write this down.
Alright, that's enough of that. Alexa, stop.
This is our third special episode covering Season 8. Today, we're talking about Season 8, Episode 7, titled Hotshots, written by Lindsay Bolio and Aisha Casey, directed by Keith Tripler.
And Season 8, Episode 8, titled Wannabes, written by Molly Green and James Leffler, and directed by our boy Bradley Bucher.
Bradley Bucher.
He's just got one of those names that's so fun.
It is fun. Also, I just hope he sees one of our videos one day and it's like, wow, I have a fan club. So what were our thoughts on these two drastically different episodes?
What happened in 7 again?
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, man.
All right. I mean, look, I do like the hot shots of it all. And that's it. And then, so episode 8, Wannabes. They are drastically different. I don't really remember. I only remember 15 minutes of episode 7. That's it.
That's how long it was.
I mean, episode 8. Yeah, that's how long it was. Huh, how strange. So, the cliffhanger, which wasn't really a cliffhanger except for someone's, I don't know what to call that face, feeling that Buck has at the end of that episode. Really, it's so on track of Eddie's character to do shit like this. So, which we'll get into that. Which we'll get into. But I mean, I can't really say anything except when we get more into the buddy part of our episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, to be honest, I'm excited, really, as to, like, where we left off. I'm excited to see, like, future developments for Eddie and Buck, and supposedly what is happening with Maddie, because I guess she's gonna get kidnapped. I don't know. Maybe, possibly. Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of, like, theories going around Twitter right now that it might not actually be Maddie or just Maddie. That would be interesting. The other thing that I could just say is, like, I thought Brad was fun.
Yeah.
I thought Brad was fun, and, like, his, like, scenes with Bobby or his interactions with Bobby and the rest of the 118. I thought it was just, like, an interesting dynamic to put in there, even though I know that this might actually be a hot take.
A hot shots take.
Yeah, hot shots take. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here
But yeah, just vibes today, I guess. Don't know. I just can't wait for the following episodes after our fucking 3.5-month hiatus. Like, wow.
It's only like 103
People
days
are
now.
already losing it.
People are losing it.
I think
I am
we
concerned.
need to
Actually,
start group therapy sessions.
Anyway, Han, yes. How do you feel?
So, like Sil said, the 15-minute episode, weird that it was so short. But fun, I guess, for the 15 minutes that it was. The rest of it, supposedly, if it does exist, not to me. Not to me.
I don't know this episode.
I don't know.
I'm so sorry to this episode.
Listen, to this day, Supernatural doesn't have a finale, so I'm going to retcon 3/4 of that episode because of reasons that I will slightly touch on later. But other than that, like, I didn't think 7 was a bad episode. I enjoyed myself when it was not the copness of it all. I understand where like some people are annoyed with the Brad stuff because he is getting a lot of screen time when we have like very important things other characters are going through and they aren't getting as much screen time. I think I was okay with 7. 8 is where it got me a little bit. Now, I enjoyed all of his stuff both times, but in 8, I was like, why is he A-plot? Why is he literally A-plot? In the Wannabes episode, shouldn't he have been, if we were gonna give him A-plot, even though he's a supporting character, shouldn't have been in Hotshots? So I was a little confused about that, but other than that, I really enjoyed 8 for the most part. Oh my god, the Eddie stuff drives me fucking nuts. Like, it breaks my heart. And then I'm like, oh, you're so stupid. So, I don't know. That's just...
Makes sense.
That's just every day, being a fan of Eddie Diaz. And Buck is... I gotta come up with another word for going through it TM, because he's surpassed that. He's like spiraling into the depths of hell, like he is. And he's in the upside down.
Yeah.
He took Eddie's place in the well.
He took Eddie's place in the well.
I was wondering how long it was going to take
God.
us to get to the well.
I enjoyed what that episode is hopefully setting up, which is going to be some high stakes, some really interesting storylines moving forward for both Buck and Eddie. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to people losing their goddamn minds for 3.5 months. Because I profit from it. The art and the fic, like...
Oh, that,
yeah,
yes,
I profit.
Yeah. What is it? Watch, suffer, profit.
Like, reduce, reuse, recycle. These were weird episodes, man.
It was 15 minutes of one,
Yeah.
and then it was a Brad, and then weird.
So, like, we knew that 7 was gonna be, like, a filler episode. But, like,
Yeah.
8 kind of sort of also felt like one.
I think it was. Yeah.
And I'm just confused why we did 2 episodes like that in a row. So I'm interested to see, like, where we're going, because, like, Tim has said, like, we're hitting the ground running, and, like, all this shit's gonna happen in 9 and 10. So enjoy your peace for the next 3.5 months. Okay.
Quote, unquote.
I don't know where we're talking about this. I think someone said that it could potentially be him wrapping up his
Like season 7.
season 7 storylines. So this is like the season 7 finale? Like the true finale?
Well, what would that be? Like, what's left?
Or we're just setting up the chess pieces. Sorry.
Bravo.
Incredible.
For storylines from season 7 and setting up his chess pieces for some devastating, hopefully, crossing my fingers. Don't let me down, Tim. I mean, I don't trust you anyway, but I mean, I trust you as far as I can throw you.
Incredible.
Anyway, so Rachel.
I'm trying to I have lots of different thoughts. I'm not sure I've put them all, like, together cohesively on just, like, a general. I liked both episodes. I don't think I liked them as much as I liked the first 6, which is hard to do. I think inevitably.
I just really quick. It was really interesting to be editing that episode that just came out where you were like, it's hit after hit.
I know.
I
know.
Right after we watched 8.
Why you make me eat my words, Tim? I know. I think I'm sorry. I jinxed it. It was me. I said the Q word. It's all on me. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'll take one for the team, I guess. I know it's like, I don't think they were bad episodes. There were a lot of elements in there that I really, really enjoyed. There were some elements in there that I am still kind of conflicted on, of course, but like conflicted on why they were included at this point in time, sort of thing. And I do think, like, inevitably, because it was kind of hit the ground running for 1 through 6, you know, inevitably you're gonna, I don't want to say like hit a little bit of a wall, but hit a little bit of a stall, I guess, where the progression isn't going to be quite as quite as immediate in the storylines, but at the same time, why are you including or introducing new storylines that are not progressing, the characters' developments, which I guess is my main caveat. I loved it generally. My main critique is why they included stuff with like the cart cop in episode 8, because it just seemed like it didn't really like fit with the rest of the episode, that an episode that we already have like some levity with the Brad Torrance plot line, and usually they would structure it out with
Oh,
like
yeah.
a little more gravitas.
And didn't we talk about
with
we were like, it's B plot. It's not even C plot.
yeah.
And we're like, why are we spending this
So,
much
like-
time on this when we already just did Athena's thing in the last episode?
That was kind of strange to me too, because in 7 they did introduce this new progression of Athena's arc or development, which I think we all are not big fans of how they did it. I understand why or what they're trying to get her to do. I don't think that was the correct vehicle for it. And then just like not pick it up in the next episode, that seemed kind of disjointed to me like that. But the way they structured some of 8, where Eddie's plotline was the emotional aspect, but it was kind of given like the C plot.
Yeah. Which was crazy because they gave him this big setup in 6, and then he got nothing in 7, which is fine, whatever. But then I feel like he should have been
like,
at bare minimum B plot in 8.
I'm just going to say, I think it's weird that they seem to be doing that a lot. I mean, I think the streets have said that that's kind of what they do for Eddie anyway, where they set him up on these like great emotional arcs, but they don't spend a lot of time. And I know it's not the Eddie show. I'm not asking for it to be the Eddie show. I'm just saying, like,
we're the Eddie show.
We're the Eddie show. But I think Eddie's like storylines this season, and I guess a lot of them really, but especially this season, I feel like they're the ones with like the most stakes. And it's kind of like, why, like the highest stakes, like, why aren't you spending as much time as you should? Then again, we do have the back half of the season, which I hope we get to see more.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not expecting every episode to truly get every character's development,
of course not.
like further down the field. However, I do have to kind of question, like, I love all of the Hotshot stuff, and I truly did enjoy it. But it was an interesting choice to me to give Brad the A-plot, the emotional development of episode 8 in lieu of some of our other characters. Like, I think that would have maybe this is like something that would have happened in editing rather than, in filming and the actual production, but maybe this is something in post-production, that just the way they like ended up structuring the episode.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how much they filmed and how much like they decided to put in a different episode, because I do know that ends up happening. But it's hard when we're in the middle of it to be like, okay, we're trying to trust the process, but like, you were aces for the first 6, and then these 2 were like, so question mark. Like,
I still feel like they could have given us one more episode before the hiatus.
yeah,
Like, they could have given us that half, because I'm guessing this is like our premiere is going to be a 2-parter.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's why they
I think
didn't
Kia said that.
do it.
Mhm.
I know, but like that
But
would
they have enough shit that they could have. I mean, to us, that for what we know, our knowledge right now, I feel like they have enough shit that they could have done another episode. They could have done another episode, and they could have spent an entire episode of Hotshots doing. I mean, we'll talk about this later. They could have spent the entire Hotshots episode actually doing Hotshots.
It just makes me kind of curious to know, like, why they were structuring things out this way and giving Brad the A plot. And I hate to be like such a stickler on like ABC plot, because it doesn't matter to me, but like, I feel like it could have been so much more impactful if maybe it was like a supporting plot rather than like the premiere one. And as as much as I really do enjoy like the entire concept of Hotshots and having it, you know, interact with our characters and our Fire Fam, and we'll talk about this again a little bit more, I did kind of want a little bit more meta from it. And not to say that we can't see any of that going forward in the future now that they've established this. And I don't want this to come off as like gripey or like not even disappointed. I'm more curious about the decisions that were made for these 2 episodes specifically in how they ended up airing, because at this point with the mid-season hiatus, like I understand that it couldn't really gone full force for like too long before you have to get to like a little like bump in a road. That's just how things go. Wasn't expecting it to be like 8 episodes of like the most impactful, amazing television I've ever seen. Because that's not
realistic.
It's optimistic, and I love being optimistic, but it's not quite realistic. So I guess my takeaway is just like I'm very interested in hearing more about like the decision making for like why some of these, and specifically Athena's in both episodes, storylines were introduced at this specific point, and why they decided to, you know, balance the Hotshots so heavily as opposed to have it take like B plot and have it more like supporting our main characters rather than the other way around, which I think is some of the opinions that I've also seen going around online. I didn't even talk about the Buck and Eddie stuff. Fantastic, heartbreaking, loved it. No notes. That's it.
More of it.
So I'll finish my thoughts now.
I will just say I think that's why 8 perplexed me a little bit, is because like even though I didn't like you know, the A plot of episode 7, and I was like, I enjoy the Brad stuff, I think it's funny, and people are like, why are we spending this much time on Brad? I was like, well, they're setting up the big thing that's going to happen with him in episode 8, but I assumed the big thing that was going to happen with him was going to like directly affect a member of the 118
or support
and be a support, and like
rather than make him the main character of not just Hotshots but of 911 for the episode.
So like I mean I wasn't like on the internet like defending it, but that was my thinking, because like people were upset and I was like, well, they're obviously setting up something huge.
I thought he was gonna be a baddie. Not a baddie. You know what
I mean.
I thought he was gonna go psycho on us.
Yeah, which it could have gone that way, but I think
I more was like, because of the interviews Tim gave after 7, where he was like talking about these attributes, where I thought like the emotional impact that he was gonna have with Eddie was gonna be more than just being like, you shouldn't let there be that much distance between you and your son.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
Kind of giving worse advice than Bobby.
Not that it wasn't impactful.
It wasn't bad advice.
No.
It's just the way Eddie takes it.
But I was like, that was it? Like, all of the screen time he got, and this is what we were setting up? Because it's like, this show doesn't do this. We don't take supporting characters and give them a plot. That's not, like, a thing. Especially if they're not, like, directly like, what's happening with them is directly furthering the arc, the main, who is in a plot.
Usually it's just a little better intertwined, I think.
But like he was most intertwined with
in a way
Bobby,
that like,
but like this wasn't furthering Bobby's arc at all.
Yeah, I think sometimes, most of the time, and what we really enjoy about 911 is when we do have these like you know, supporting characters, their stories are intertwined a little bit better in a way that more greatly serves our main characters. And it felt a little flipped in this instance, which again, I don't hate. I'm just interested and curious of the why. And I think, and I will say, I think Callum Blue did a fantastic job. He was killing it, like, throughout the entire season so far. Like, he has been a fantastic guest star and, like, stepped up to the plate with every single thing that they were giving him. So, like, that was, it was really enjoyable and fun to watch. But when I look back at the story structure of it all, I'm just like,
what are we doing?
The only guest star to ever guest star.
I knew that's
season
what
8.
you were thinking when I saw your eyes when I was saying that, and I didn't intend it like that. But you know,
Sorry,
So
I
glad
just
he
have to-
was satisfied with his role.
Yeah, with his whole overall arc.
I'm really happy
and
for him
how
because I know that he
loved
came
the
back from a
show.
long
Mhm.
hiatus. It's great that he
yeah.
That's great.
got to come on a show with a great cast who really love to welcome their guest
Embraced him.
stars.
Okay, so and now that we've gotten that kind of out of the way, our kind of messy thoughts, and I think that's why like these episodes are kind of confusing for us to speak about because it's just kind of like
We don't know where
we
we're
liked
going.
it, but confused.
What are we doing?
I think for the themes as we're continuing looking at that are peppered in throughout the season, there's been a lot of kind of like driving home of ones that we've already spoken about quite at length. Specifically, things about parents being present or absent, missing out on big moments was a large, call out in episode 8, and stuff. I mean, we're gonna get to a lot of stuff about trust and unresolved traumas and abandonment issues. Shocking, I know. And then I would say there's more masks, disguises, honestly. All of this stuff we've kind of covered a little bit before. I think a theme that was introduced a little more specifically in these couple episodes was like impulsivity. And it's not that we don't see it previous to this, but I think there's more emphasis on it, specifically talking about like how Eddie is making some of these impulsive decisions. I guess Brad kind of going in to be the hero when he's supposed to hang back with the cart cop and the people who he spoke to and how they were like very quick to like threaten and anger.
I think we said it was Buck fighting his impulsivity with the baking
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and going to Eddie's house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So like, because his impulse is to like text Tommy. So instead he's fighting that. So it's been kind of a thread I think we've seen running under the surface, but these couple episodes kind of brought it out in more like full color, I guess. If you want some more in depth about our themes, check out about the season 8 themes. You can
watch the other season 8 episodes.
Check out our other season 8 specials because we talk about those a little bit more, but we don't want to be too
repetitive
with all of that. It just reiterated a lot of stuff that we're already like seeing very much throughout.
Producciones.
So yeah, just a couple things for production behind the scenes. In episode 8, when we're back on the Hotshots set, there is a cameo from one of the actual makeup artists on 911, Julia.
And that's when Chimney is getting like the eye patches and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny. And I think was it Ryan that pointed it out in his Instagram stories? Because like I wouldn't have known.
I wouldn't have either.
That's really cool. I want to bet that there is a lot of crew making little cameos probably whenever they're on like the Hotshot set, because it's just like, anytime there's like a show or a movie making a show or a movie about making a show or a movie. God, this is gonna get confusing. But and it's like you see all like the cameras and all.
So you mean like the mockumentary from Misha Collins?
Okay, and there was I think Ryan also posted this. Thanks for feeding us, Ryan. He posted.
Well, I think it was from a crew member.
Was it from a crew member? Okay.
But I don't know.
He's posting it to his stories. I don't think we would see it otherwise, because I don't think we're like following many crew members. But yeah, so there was this behind the scenes video of the Hotshots end scene in episode 8, which is cool because it's, behind the scenes of them shooting, acting like they're firefighters, acting like they're actors, acting like
there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers here. It's like behind the scenes of 911, behind the scenes of Hotshots, filming Hotshots.
Yeah.
It gets very meta, very confusing very quickly, but it's so funny because it's like an alternate take from the cameo thing that we got actually in the episode. And oh my God, it's so funny because you can see Ryan as Eddie, who would not be currently in the shot.
Yes. In Hotshots.
In the Hotshot shot. is still there, but like we would be seeing it from like the 911 lens. And Eddie is reciting everybody's
While
lines
he clings to
and
like a wall or something.
to get out of the way.
So cute.
And he's just like knows everybody's lines and apparently got like really into it. I wonder if that's something else that brought him joy. And then Buck just totally like flubs one of his lines, and then like Eddie looks confused because he's like, that's not the correct line. And Chimney's just there being like, fantastic. He's got a real future in the business, kid. So sorry. But
Why are you like this?
Just where does this come from?
I don't know. Like the thing is, even if we weren't filming, I would still be doing that.
Well, we're fully aware. This is none of this is for show. This is just who we are as people. You're welcome, or we're sorry. We're not sorry. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
We're not sorry.
If you're listening to us, you're welcome.
Deal with it. Yeah.
You chose this.
Thank you for putting
Thank you
up
for
with-
choosing this.
Thank you for watching the Buddy System.
Yeah, that was not a threat at all.
You chose this.
Rachel, please continue.
I just really liked that too, because it showed that there was obviously more stuff that, ends up on the cutting room floor. But I thought it was really neat because of the way it was being filmed, where it was like being filmed, that it was like behind the scenes of the show sort of stuff. So we can get into like some of the meta of the hotshots of it all. I think this would be a good opportunity too, about like what we got and maybe some things that like we wish we could have gotten with the meta, maybe like some missed opportunities or yet to be opportunized.
Okay. So I'm wondering if like there was like I'm wondering why they didn't like react to Hotshots basically, I guess, following through with like their greatest hits, the 118's greatest hits. Like we've got Rebar.
Yeah.
Like there should have been
an
like
extra with a rebar on
an extra with the rebar, and like there should have been, I don't know, maybe a scene where Chimney just comes face to face with that and be like, oh yeah, that's not a great time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you
joke.
can see him in the background while they're there. So
Yeah.
Chimney should have seen
and they're
it.
looking at the guy hanging off the ladder.
Oh, that too. Also, like,
Yeah.
why did we not have like, I don't know, some kind of like reaction? It didn't. It could have been a subtle
Like-
reaction, if
Like,
anything.
is this play about us?
No, but like also like, do we really want to send Buck and Eddie up there? Like, you know what I mean?
Something. Yeah.
Something acknowledging that this is what they've lived through,
Yeah.
and why,
And
and then I'm questioning. Okay, so why is Hotshots doing their
Best ofs.
best ofs? I mean, I know we have the head canon. Who knows
Listen-
if they're gonna?
I wonder then if a lot of that stuff is another like more things that have kind of they filmed and it just didn't quite fit with the episode, depending on who was cutting it. Because I know Tim said in one of the interviews he gave the day that 808 came out, and he did say to TV Line that there was a doppelganger gag cut from 807 where, I think we saw again in some videos
Yeah.
behind the scenes, there was like a Buck lookalike, a Hen lookalike, an Eddie lookalike with the mustache. And Tim said it might be something to revisit in the future. So it's like, I wonder how much of that like they were trying to include and just like ended up not, but I would have liked seeing more of it for sure.
I wonder if we're gonna
Continue.
with Hotshots then.
I'm okay with us seeing more of Hotshots as long as Brad is
Yeah.
not the focus, because
Mhm.
I think the way that they can do it in the future is like have these little cutaways to the show.
I would love to see them randomly, like the show on in the background. Like it doesn't
Yes,
even need to
that's
be them
exactly what I'm
actively
talking about.
watching it. It could be on
Yeah.
Eddie's TV. Buck catches him watching it. Be on at the station, and people are like, "Oh my god, change the channel!" Like, I also am just so mad. I'm mad. I'm a little mad because they have that opening in 808 where they have the whole like big scene where it is the thing that we've been asking for since we knew that Hotshots was going to be a thing, which was for them to watch a scene and be like, is this fucking play about us?
Yeah.
So for it to just be like some random fucking thing that was like foreshadowing something that they were gonna do
Foreshadowing for,
was like,
as opposed to like a
like
true
it was still funny. Like it was still a funny
character
scene.
parallel.
Like it was entertaining. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, that was a missed opportunity for me. Like that would have been like a home run.
Mm-hmm. I think, again, this is us coming from like Supernatural, where we had episodes like fan fiction where they're literally watching a play about them.
French Mistake.
The French Mistake, exactly. So much meta. So like, and Supernatural was very good about their meta. I think that is one of the things that they did like superbly well, like kind of far and beyond a lot of other shows that try to get meta. Like Supernatural hit a home run with the meta stuff every time. So I think like if we revisit Hotshots in the future of 911, now that it's been established and it would make sense, I would love to see it kind of like either playing in the background or just like a brief kind of cutaway to it or something, or like, yeah, basically playing in the background. Some characters are watching it. And if you're paying enough attention, it will either be paralleling or foreshadowing for character development or previous character arcs and something like that. And that's when it would also be a great moment for, you know, that character to actually walk by and see, you know, one of their other people on the 118 and watching it and just like stop for a second and be like, because it's about them, and then have that kind of it would be a good way to kind of like inspire some self awareness, self-analysis, that kind of stuff, which can help spur further character development. And that would be like a really subtle, easy thing to do. That would be a fun wink nod to us, the audience, to the people making the show, like, you know, it just like one of those like multi-layered things that could help move the character development further down the field without doing too much, you know.
I think they did some good meta though that we got is
yes,
when Brad is talking down the jumper and like, you know, Brad's playing up like his whole woe is me.
Oh, woe is me.
And then they have the jumper say like, no, like your show does, like it matters to millions of people, and like you got me through a dark time, and and I was like, that's good meta. That's a good nod to your audience.
I did really like that scene as well, because there you also have Brad playing meta like in his own life. Not just like meta in the show, but like he is very much the woe is me, because he is feeling that like truthfully, and that is him like being authentic, but he also knows how to turn it on in just the right way, because you see that kind of like smile of like, oh yeah, okay, it's working, but he's also like indulging in these like feelings. So I thought that was well done too.
I love when there are two moments. So there's one of them is at the beginning of the episode when he's asking for critiques because he's like, you hated it. And Hen's like, we wouldn't call it a hydraulic something. We would just call it a spreader. And he was like, the network. The network said no, right? The network thought it was too risque or was too salacious or something, right? And then later in the episode when he's talking to Eddie, he's like, yeah, I flew here for a CW pilot. I'm going to take these things multiple ways. The network kiboshed it for being salacious or whatever, I feel like is a dual dig. I don't know if they meant to dig at Supernatural with that one, but it absolutely was to me, especially with the CW one later.
I mean, we can take it personally. I thought it would be more of a dig at Fox.
That's what I was going to say. It's definitely a dig at Fox. It's definitely a dig at Fox. So that's why I was saying it's
for
dual.
Not allowing certain things. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because those things are the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was it was the year anniversary of the Supernatural finale. So like,
of course it was.
I just thought that was a funny haha on purpose in both cases.
Yeah. Anything poking fun about the CW,
I'll eat that shit up.
Take it and laugh. And I'm like, maybe Hotshots is on a network.
The CW.
I know some people are like CBA or XYZ, and I'm like, I think it's on FCW.
I think it must actually be on a on an ABC or something, though, for the amount of people that, like, recognize him so easily.
Yeah. Oh, it was like, I mean, it is the 911 of their universe, so it is on a major network. So
yeah, the CW doesn't have the money for 911.
CW would not have the money for Hotshots and Brad Torrance. Like,
At all.
No.
I wonder though then if someone on the cast did audition for a pilot on the CW and like it didn't go. I wonder if that was like a little like under the radar thing.
I don't know.
At someone.
That would be a good question.
That would be funny.
I mean, which one is most likely?
Honestly, it could be anybody.
I want to say Ryan.
I was going to say Oliver.
Could be.
I'm just going to say Ryan because that man...
Well, that man is
everywhere.
everywhere.
That man is everywhere. Like, I feel like he's done everything. You could tell me literally anything and I'd be like, well, of course.
His resume is like 3 feet long.
It's the Crowley gift.
It's just like done everything under the sun. would not take us by surprise. But yes, always enjoy meta storylines. Like, please revisit the Hotshots again in the future. Like, it's so much fun to kind of like to have our characters look at themselves through a different lens than they would normally. And I hope we kind of, if we revisit it, I hope we would see more of it in that sense, because that was like the only thing that would have made it like even better, you know? Shall we move into talking about some of our characters? And okay, so let's get the elephant out of the room right off the bat. That was a lot of metaphors all in one sentence. Let's talk about Athena. I think we all have very similar, if not the same, opinion on this. And Han, I know I think you were able to like articulate it.
I wrote down a thing just because I don't actually want to get into this too deep here. I know like we will when we do our rewatch. You know, we dive deeper into this stuff
when we get to season 8 in a jillion years.
Yeah, but I don't have the capacity to really get into it right now, especially with like the climate of everything at this juncture.
It's unnecessary for us to wade into at this moment.
Yeah. So like I do want to address it though, because like I have to, because it was put in front of me and that's what this show is about. So I think the storyline with the power hungry rookie cop was unnecessary. He was a foil to Athena's character and served the purpose of inspiring her to take on a different rookie to train them right. That end goal could have been reached so many other ways, like literally so many other ways, like literally could have used that cart cop.
Which is what I thought they were continuing with it, but we'll get to that.
Seeing a police officer shoot a civilian opens up a can of worms that you have to address, but this episode did none of that. And having Athena shake his hand after everything was especially tone deaf.
So I think that speaks for all three of us pretty well. Thank you for honing that in, because otherwise I would have been like, oh.
And I just like don't want to get too deep into it because like I will spiral and I will go off, and like that's not.
We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I want to address about that is like how Athena's character going forward, like that's going to be the purpose of that entire storyline, was to get Athena to say like, hey, you know, I think I'd like to take some rookies and mentor them and take them under my wing, sort of thing, which is a big character
departure
difference. Or not, I wouldn't say it's a character
it's
departure.
A departure
but
from her stance in her professional life that she's always taken. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still in character, but it's
I'm not saying it's out of character. It's just out of
I
how she operates as a police officer.
Yeah, so okay, in that sense, it is a very character departure from what we've seen for, 7 years. And I think the potential of Athena being able to mentor some young people is a really interesting concept, and it can be done well. I thought that's kind of what they were continuing with the cart.
I'm so glad it's not. I'm really
line.
hoping they do not give her a straight white man. Like literally anything but
Please
that.
No. If they are going to be introducing like a rookie cop who Athena will be taking under her wing, they have to, and I know 911 is generally very good about this. They would be making them like a supporting character unless there's like a rotating door of them. But if it's just like one or two, they have to really endear the characters to the audience. 911 generally doesn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, but they're not normally doing that with cops.
So they're kind of like putting themselves in a tight rope to walk on, but I am interested and still like kind of intrigued to see how Athena's going to be dealing with this, how like these changes in her professional life are going to be. And I'm also, I guess, like the way that I can tie it into her character as a whole is this season we're seeing a little bit more of Athena like communicating with Bobby specifically, and like they're more on the same page. So it's kind of this like entirely new chapter in Athena's life. So that will be interesting, and that's the only way I can really look at this specifically through that lens. Let's talk about Bobby now, please.
What about it?
All I know,
I don't
okay,
know we have him on here.
I don't know. Bobby's just been.
He's our comfort captain.
He's our comfort captain. He's also, I guess, the cookie for the past two, for the past this whole entire Hotshots arc. I mean, he had his other scene where I was like, damn, I want the cookie too. So
I love I guess Bobby didn't really have a lot of development either in these two episodes, but it was really fun to see him kind of like, you know, when Bobby puts his foot down on stuff and just like, because he's so like gentle parent, when he gets into these like very authoritative moments, it's kind of like
Not with Brad though.
fun and interesting to see.
He does not gentle parent.
no, he doesn't.
No, it's because Brad needed a swift kick
Brad
on the back
still
of
wanted
the head.
cookie, though.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that made him want him more.
Oh, when he's like, yes, Captain.
Yeah. Totally. Like when Bobby takes Brad aside, like after the pipe burst call and everything, and totally like dresses him down. That whole speech that Bobby was giving him, I was like, something about this sounds and feels very familiar. Where have I like heard something like this before? And I realized it was like Woody talking to Buzz in the first Toy Story, where he's like, "You are a toy." And that just really set me off. Like, I have to, you know, burst your bubble. I have to give you the reality
You're
check.
not a firefighter, bro. You're gonna kill someone.
Toy.
This
You
is real
are
life.
an actor. Yeah. I loved that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all very funny, and like also I just like give me Bobby yelling at people like always, because that's a delicious cookie.
That is a snack.
No.
But
we are all Brad in those
Yes.
moments wanting the cookie.
But yeah, I don't.
Let's be real.
I don't
Let's
really
be
know
real.
what to talk about, like other than just like
I know. It was nice then that like afterwards he gave Brad like the opportunity to like feel like a real hero. But man, that was like a really risky move with like, you know, negotiation kind of stuff, and you don't know how it's gonna go, but Bobby knows what he's doing most of the time.
But remember
so,
in
like,
the
it worked
first
out fine.
episode how we talked about how you had to be certified to actually help in those situations?
Yep.
Yeah.
But I guess it's okay because Hotshots gives the LAFD a lot of money, so
that's the most realistic part of that episode, to be honest.
And then I guess we just kind of see like the kind of closure, not closure with Gerard. I don't think that's even
Gotta just hope we never see it again.
Yeah. That was so
I don't know,
strange.
like, it was nice to see him suffering, but it also was like,
Mm.
we're still playing him up for comedy, and like, I'm just over it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this didn't really like drive Bobby's story forward any at all, but it was very enjoyable to watch. Yeah, we can start talking about Buck now, I think.
The love of our lives, our housewife.
One of Oh,
I need him to
sweet.
come over so he can bake some stuff for me. Thank you.
In the hoodie.
In the hoodie.
And the hoodie and the green
apron.
And the
apron.
breakup green apron.
I don't know why this man serves so hard when he is so depressed, but
It's that classic soundbite.
oh, it's this man got 10 times hotter when his whole life fell apart.
Yeah, because it's true.
Yeah. Oh, pathetic men. He needs to be a girl dad immediately.
He needs to be a girl dad.
Oh,
Immediately, yes.
immediate stat.
Now.
Give this man a daughter.
if you need sunshine in your life, just like watch the scene where he opens up the
my
door
God.
and Maddie and Chimney and G is there, and he's like, "You didn't tell me the most special person in the entire world," and just like I melted.
Oh my God. Just so sweet. I also thought it was funny. I mean, it's cute, but like, and I don't think that this was intentional, but that's just where my brain goes because I'm always looking for bisexual puns. And I think actually maybe it was on purpose because this was the episode where he was like, I don't know what pond to jump back into. But like when he's like,
Oh, yeah.
I have this cookie dough and this cookie dough and this cookie dough. Like, which one do you want to make? And she was like, all of them. And he was like,
All of
that's the
them.
best answer. And I was like, that's right, Buck.
Yes. No, I think that was
Yeah.
intentional. Mm-hmm. You can have all of them. It's fine.
You don't have to choose one. That's the beauty of being bisexual. Please do a Google search. I am begging you.
Put down the flour and the baking trays and pick up your laptop for once.
Jesus, please.
Like the one time he doesn't go
Yeah.
on like a Wikipedia spiral is just like,
It's like
Okay.
you really, this is the thing that you chose not to look further into. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, his arc doesn't super move. It doesn't really move hardly at all in 807. It's just kind of like you're seeing the aftermath of the breakup.
yeah, like the reaction of it,
Yeah.
which is something.
I am just going to say, I had to eat my words. I'm going to take accountability. I was like, I remember I watched.
Episode that just came out.
Yeah, I watched a part of that and I was like, oh, we're going to see him not Miss Tommy at all. Or Miss Tommy at a surface level.
But I think it is
But-
surface level.
It is kind of surface
Yeah.
level. But I was like, I think we're going to see, oh, this is where I will eat my words now. Oh, we're going to see him react to Chris leaving, which honestly, I
Mm.
guess maybe we'll see it later. I don't know. Because now he has to grapple with the whole Eddie bombshell of it all.
Yeah, I just don't think he's allowed himself to show how that's affecting him because he again is
The Chris
yeah
thing?
because
Or the
Mhm.
Tommy
the
thing.
Chris thing
The Chris thing.
because
Mm.
he's first and foremost he has to have Eddie's back, and part of that is like not making his emotions
Eddie
like
sadder.
not being a burden.
Not centering Buck's
Yeah.
emotions over Eddie's because he knows Eddie is like dealing with it even like worse. So he's just trying to be supportive best friend. But back to what you were saying, Sil, and Hannah, I know you agreed. Like I think the missing Tommy thing is kind of just like the surface level reading, and I think it is a lot like deeper than that, right? Where
Because it's not spiraling about Tommy, it's the spiraling about I am dying alone
being
now.
left again
Yeah.
and being left again, and
So
I
the
am
things we
not-
said
I
in
am
the,
not
in the last
enough
episode,
to
right? Where it's like he
Mhm.
thought that this was going to fix his life. Like, oh, it's this thing,
Yeah.
the being attracted to men thing, and like now I'm in a relationship with one, so like everything will be great. And then that blew up. And it was like after I just feel like that was such an emotional whiplash. It was like the Abby thing, and then he like worked really hard to like get past that and like overcorrected
Yeah.
and asked him to move in and like made himself very
Yeah.
vulnerable and literally
Yeah.
got
But I think it also can't be understated, like the amount of work that he was like putting into kind of like get over like the Abby-ness of it all. And we can lump that in with his like radical acceptance
Mhm.
sort of thing. But he did say it was weird for him at first, and I think he was like really trying to move past it in a healthy way, and it just so happened that it wasn't with the healthiest person for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think he ever says that he misses Tommy. He says
No,
that he's
No.
lonely. Okay, right?
Which is another season theme.
And I also think that is twofold. It's because, yes, he spent a lot of time with Tommy, but who else was he spending time with? Tommy and
But Eddie.
Eddie. But, like, we haven't seen him and Eddie hanging out by themselves, so...
At all.
Right. So not only is he not
Well,
having that time with Tommy, he's having way less time with Eddie. Because, like, that was that buffer that I think he was putting there so
Mhm.
that he could, like, keep that mask on his emotions.
Another mask.
Yep.
Yeah, that is interesting too, and I'm sure we'll get into it later in like our buddy section. But like we really don't see until like the very end of 806, but we don't see Buck and Eddie like on their own outside of work when
Mhm.
they're on a job until 806, but they're still not communicating. This is getting into buddy territory, sorry.
No, it's not, because, I mean...
Their storylines are very
Yeah.
intertwined.
these
Okay.
past 2 episodes anyway. So
So then, yeah, the first time we really see Buck and Eddie on their own and like having actual communication is in 808, and we get this big bombshell for
Man,
Buck.
how many bombshells
and-
is this man going to be hit with?
bombshells
And
are
it's just
grenades.
actually, oh
Well-
my god, actually Tim Minear is evil.
She didn't get it.
Wait, what? Sorry, I had a brain blast. I didn't hear what you said.
No, you're right. Sorry. You said bombshells, and I said bombshells or grenades.
Yes.
It wasn't that good. What was your brain blast?
I mean, this isn't something that I haven't thought before, but I think I didn't like think about the implications of how evil it was. Tim Minear is evil. I think we already knew this.
Yes.
Again.
And we love
Oh,
it.
we love
I
it.
don't trust him.
It's a fact.
But like, so we were so excited about the Abby, like, like Abby's Tommy is the same Tommy.
Mhm.
We were so excited
Tommy.
about that. But except what did that do? It just brought up all the Abby trauma right before
right to the
before Eddie's
surface.
gonna leave.
Yes.
Just like Abby
Which I
did.
think no, I think that has to be like
That's on purpose.
Intentional.
It
I
is
think it's
intentional.
delicious.
It is actually. But like,
it's as delicious as his
evil.
baking.
He's eating with that. You know, go off to Mike. He really was baking. He really
Yeah.
was cooking. He
He
was.
was- he
We're about
was
to.
cooking.
We're about to eat a full course meal. I'm here for
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, like it just
Sorry.
yeah, no, he was like, I'm gonna bake up the absolute worst versions of abandonment issues in this man.
Oh my gosh.
Right after he just
And, like,
got left
on-
again in his most transformative relationship.
Please. And on top of Buck having to deal with like the Tommy leaving, and of course he says he's ecstatic for Chimney and Maddie and their pregnancy and a new baby, but you also have to think in the back of Buck's mind of all the stuff that happened last time. So they're doing this thing where they're bringing back a lot of Buck's
Right, because she
abandonment
left him.
issues and
She left him
traumas.
again.
Exactly.
Oh my god, he's so evil.
And that's why he keeps saying, yeah, we're going to be dealing with Buck's abandonment issues. It's like, we already are, and it's purposeful and is being brought up with, and that's kind of the thing too, like with all of the best of for like the buddy
Mhm.
stuff, but a lot of the parallels that we're seeing from previous seasons for any which characters, these are coming back into the fold, and very much like, let's just heap on this pile of more trauma for Buck. So like, of course he's still like really excited for them, and I think he's excited to have another niece or nephew because he's so good with kids and he loves it. It's just it's
He's
amazing.
excited, but also at the
but,
same
like-
time, he's like, my kid is gone and now never coming back. And
Mhm.
I'm also just never gonna have kids because no one's ever gonna stay.
Ugh.
He's doing
Yeah,
fine.
it's like he's getting so close to like the things that he aspires to and that he wants, but he's just like a couple steps
Mhm.
removed, right? So like Maddie and Chimney have the family that he obviously wants, and Eddie and Chris, which are basically his families, are going away or half gone already. And so yeah, that's putting a lot of, I think that is what is, I mean, obviously it's contributing to the spiraling, but everyone is kind of assuming it's the Tommy thing. And I think on some level Buck wants it to be just about the
Right.
Tommy thing.
Well, he's like, but if I do text him and like we get back together, everything will be fine. Because then he doesn't have to think about.
Yeah. It's putting a Band-Aid over everything, and I'm not sure making the like him jonesing for like to reach for texting Tommy, and he needed, I forget the exact wording, but like in 807 Bobby, says like, the baking is a healthy coping mechanism. That's what happens with, that's what you try to
In
do
recovery,
with addiction. So
and
like
he says, I don't feel
in
recovered. All
recovery.
I feel is a tractor beam pulling me to my phone.
Yeah. So like we're getting this connection of texting Tommy to this kind of like addiction sort of thing, which like there's a lot of stuff under the surface, because it's not just like the thing that you're addicted to. There's all of this stuff and reasons why underneath that make that so addicting. And so I think on some level Buck just wants to like not have to think about it deeper. And I think he almost wants it just to be like this surface level thing. He knows this is why he's spiraling so bad. He knows that it's more than that. And that's why he's not being as forthcoming about, confiding in people about this stuff too. We don't see him do that a lot this season. There are like little bits and pieces, but like, and
normally he goes to certain people for certain types of advice.
Exactly. Because he's an externalizer.
I think this would be a Bobby thing, like who he would go to talk about this specifically, but we don't see him doing that.
No, which is interesting too, especially since, they went through all of that stuff to get Bobby back. And also more abandonment issues, because at the end of 807, where they're talking about Bobby talking to the fire chief, and Buck's like, wait, are you leaving again? So all of this stuff is like so already like bubbling so close to the surface. And it's just, oh boy, we're going to see a Buck breakdown.
Tim has said he's going to be spinning like a top several times in interviews.
Yeah, so
which is just like he's going to spin and then crash.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what
because that's what it does. It spins very fast and then it topples over.
Again, I can't wait.
I'll bring this up later, but like when we talk about stuff that we know moving forward, I pulled a bunch of quotes from Tim, and he has some very specific wording that he repeats, and I want to talk about that later.
That same thing.
Yeah. They went to the same school of Taylor Swiftification.
So yeah, we've got the abandonment issues, which never truly leave you. Your friends are the abandonment issues we made along the way. Then yeah, I guess the last thing I have for Buck Solo is the parallel of him being depressed and someone bringing him a child. As a prescription for his depression. But luckily he didn't like leave his apartment this time. Improvement. But it is cute because there was also a parallel to like, oh my god, when Eddie leaves Christopher with Buck to go on his first date with Kim. And he's like, don't let him stay up too late, like playing video games. And he's like, I won't. And he's like, I was talking to Chris. I think there's kind of a parallel with that as like Maddie and Chimney were leaving, where I think Chimney says like, take care of your Uncle Buck. So it's like there's no illusions here. The kids are taking care of him.
100%.
And I'll end with, please give him children. We need
a kid.
Give him children.
Like, yes, he has Chris. Give him another kid.
He doesn't have Chris now. He just needs children.
He's gonna get Chris back though. Eventually. Right?
He's gotta.
Right? Okay. This motherfucker.
This motherfucker. Oh.
That's what he's going to get called when he's doing this shit from now on.
Oh, Eddie is still blowing up
Eddie,
your whole life.
Eddie.
Even though you think you're doing it for I guess the best intentions. You think that you're doing you think you're doing what's best for everyone. You're not. Stop
Oh
it.
my god.
There's I don't want to talk about parallels real quick, but I'm just gonna say it anyway because I'm not gonna really talk too much about it. But there was a whole I went back to season 2 to watch his argument with Shannon
in
and how
Haunted
in
207.
Haunted and how she basically says paraphrasing here, she says something around the lines of, oh, you just make decisions for everyone without talking to them. And that's what she does. I mean, that's what he does.
That's what he's doing.
And he's still doing that. How do we break that cycle, Eddie? What are we doing? What are we going to do?
Communicate. Talk to your son. Okay.
But he needs to be bopped and like he needs someone to hit him in the head at this point with that.
Yeah, I don't know the solution for how to like shake him.
I don't.
So like things rattle around in place there. But
I'm assuming because of how little they've talked about how much Chris has talked to him, which is to imply that like he barely talked. Like this is the first time we've seen any evidence of full sentences out of him, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think they've had a conversation about what happened, right?
No.
And I don't think that Eddie understands that he has to figure out why the fuck he did that in order to explain it to Christopher, so Christopher can understand and forgive him. And in order for Eddie to do that, he has to keep doing that self-discovery thing that he did for 5 fucking seconds.
Yeah, I've been, and again, I know not every episode is going to be full of development for every character or like even most of the characters, but
would have been happy to just see him drinking juice in the background.
And I mean, like, the only things that we're really seeing that kind of go with this, like, finding joy, being a little, like frivolity sort of thing is, in 7, when he, like, hops over the couch in the station and he's like, horsing around with Buck and the phone. We'll get into that, like, in more in depth later. That seems like a little bit more of a lighthearted kind of, like, looking for fun, like, embracing his inner child sort of thing for Eddie. However, that is, like, the only thing that we really see, and it's not, and we're not seeing him, like, actively, consciously choosing to pursue that kind of stuff a little more. And that's why it seems like such a backslide with his conversation, or what he decides after Eddie's conversation with Brad Torrance, because we're not seeing, and it's not linear and everything like that, but like it seems like he was being put on such a good path after his conversation with Hot Priest / Father Brian, to kind of like revert to doing what he always does, which is making a unilateral decision without conferring with anyone. Because as much as Buck is an externalist, Eddie is an internalist, and this is where the problem lies with him, because he doesn't really like confer with anyone or ask for counsel. Like, am I making a mistake? It's like,
well,
so
I just realized that the only time that we do actually see character growth for Eddie is when he does talk out loud externally about his things and gets good advice.
And who does that good advice usually come from?
It's Buck, because Bobby's is 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. And actually, kind of character-wise, I think Buck would benefit from like trusting his own intuition on certain stuff more, rather than asking everybody's and that is his problem, because he's asking
because he needs the validation.
Asking everyone else what they think he should do, so he does what he thinks that they think that he should do. And Eddie's like, I can do it all on my own because I'm the man of the house, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, no, he works better when he actually talks it out externally, specifically with Buck, because Buck's the one that gives him like the best advice but the advice that he just ends up taking in general. So he ends up talking with Brad, who, you know, has been through kind of similar, but like a little different.
not.
Like,
That's the
like
thing,
it's set.
not.
I know. It's set up. It's set up to parallel Eddie's situation, but it is absolutely actually
He left
not
his kid.
the same thing.
Mhm.
He left his
Eddie
kid.
would never do
exactly.
that. Well, he did kind
no,
of.
he didn't.
But well, when he went to the army,
That's a job.
Twice.
That's a job.
well, the acting was the job.
For the pilot that he didn't get, and then he never went home.
Okay. I will say this. For Eddie, he sees a lot of himself in what Brad is telling him, right? Eddie is seeing a lot of himself in there. We know that it is absolutely not the same thing, right? But Eddie can't see the forest for the trees in this situation. So it's set up for Eddie to be like, oh, wow, I really resonate with that. Like, let me not be a terrible dad who abandoned his kid for 20 some odd years and da-da-da-da-da.
That's not what he's thinking.
And it's like,
He literally is just panicking because, and you can see it, like he does that like huge fucking throat bob when he's like, oh, congratulations, because his kid's getting married. And he's like, yeah, I'm still like hoping I get an invitation.
Mhm.
And then that's when you can
It's
be like,
gulp.
Eddie's face falls and he swallows really hard. He's spiraling about that, about the thought of like missing out on Chris's life, which is the whole problem that he had with himself being in the army.
Originally.
Was missing out on his life. And that was like, he promised Chris that he was never going to do that again. And it's like, he's not technically doing it on purpose right now, but
he feels like it's his fault because of what happened with Kim. So in his mind, it's the same thing, but it's not.
I mean, I feel like I touched upon it earlier when we were first talking about this. The way he makes decisions, the types of decisions that he makes it's always these like life-altering decisions, but he never like talks to anyone or asks if this is the way, if this is what they want, or if this is what they should do. He doesn't do that. And so it's kind of, it does parallel, to me, it kind of parallels how he's always treated his like past relationships. Because everything, and again, like everything, and I guess it will always be centered around Chris without like any thought of like himself and what he wants, because this is what he thinks that Christopher needs. So like every relationship that he's had in the past is, I need to find a mom for Chris because that's what Christopher needs, which no, that's not the case. Have you ever asked? No, you haven't. And then in this case, him like packing up, and the idea of him packing up and going all the way to Texas is like the same thing. Because you're not
thing he
like
did in season when he left the 118.
Yes. Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing.
And Chris even was like, I never asked you to do that. Like when they finally talked about it.
Oh yeah, no, the minute that Christopher hears about this, and I don't know if he's going to hear about it or if he's going to see his dad in Texas, he's going to be like, what the fuck are you doing here?
Why are you here? Yeah, and like I keep thinking about his decision to do this, or his thinking about doing, like, moving back to El Paso, in relation to what he told the cheerleader Weston's dad in what was that, No Place Like Home, episode 4, where he's like, well, yeah, you're the parent. So like I think there is a fine line here where it's like, yes, and Eddie swings just like in extremes one way or the other, right? But never like truly threads the needle, because it's like, yes, he's the parent, so like he recognizes that, but he's making those unilateral parent decisions on the wrong things and letting things slide on the wrong things where he should be taking more authority as a parent. And on the other side, he should be, like actually asking, people, especially Chris, like what he wants, and giving Chris that like freedom and independence that he's always trying to do, but he's just doing them on the wrong moments. It's the complete opposite of what he should be doing.
I feel like he's just not talking. He's asking for advice from the wrong people, or he's asking for direction, or just in general, and he's asking for things from literally the wrong people when he should really be talking to Chris. First of all, he should really be talking to Chris about having that he needs to have that conversation about about Kim, why he did all of that. He also needs to talk to him about coming back home, because like that him going there is just going to
exacerbate things.
Yeah, I think it would. I don't think it's for the good of anyone for him to go over there. I know he thinks he's just like, I don't want to miss another moment of my son's life, but it's kind of like, you're gonna make matters worse. And I'm also I don't know if, again, like I don't think that we'll even get to that point where he actually does like move. But I'm kind of like, if that does happen, like even his parents aren't going to take that very well either.
Well, that's
which
what
could make matters worse.
Like, I don't even think this is a parenting decision. I think he's literally like, I just don't want to miss any more of my kid's life. Like, he's not moving there in the capacity of like, I need to be a father again. He's moving there in the capacity of like, I want to see what's happening with my kid, because he can't even get pictures or updates on what's happening. And it's like,
which is a whole other issue that I know we like can take up as well. But like, going down this like hypothetical path, like if he were to go all the way to El Paso, just like show up, and it's like, who's to say that anything would really be different, because if his parents are essentially like cutting him out of Chris's life anyways, like he's going to be there in El Paso, but it's almost going to be worse because he's still going to be on the outside of everything,
and he's not going to have a support system.
And he's not going to have a support system, and he's going to be seeing it all in front of him as opposed to like 800 miles away. And I think that's almost kind of worse, because then you're seeing firsthand what you're missing out on, and it's just like, that is not healthy.
I don't know how this man, I guess it's the trauma. This is like a trauma response, I fucking guess. Because it's like, I feel like he thinks through so many things before he does it, and he like sits back and observes and like thinks things through, anything that isn't a big important decision. And then when it comes to things like this, it's literally first thought, enter head,
reaction,
send.
Like he can be so logical about things except for this stuff, and
again, so again, he needs to talk to Christopher. I also think that Again, he kind of circling back to the whole like him getting advice from people that I don't think he should be getting advice from. And I know why, but he also needs to talk to Buck, because that's one thing. I mean, I don't want to go into the Buddie of it all, but I think that story wise, like Buck says, okay, Buck says something and he does it. So like, it's like Buck says jump and he does it. So it's the whole situation with Kim, like, okay, you shouldn't be doing all of that. And he immediately is like, okay, I'm going to,
it's like, oh yeah, you're
try
right,
to cut Kim out of his life. So he hasn't, I guess my point is like, he hasn't talked to Buck at all. The both of them specifically haven't had like an actual conversation alone. And these past 2 or 3 episodes, episode 6, they were silent. I think episode 5, they didn't really, I don't think they interacted as much. And then this last one, it was just a bombshell. There was like no room to have a conversation.
Well, and I also think them not writing Buck and Eddie hanging out, just the two of them, or talking about Chris, so intentional. I feel like it's going to lead to a fight eventually.
We'll talk about that as well, because like it is absolutely intentional when you're keeping characters who are usually like attached at the hip and shoulders and literally everything else apart for so long.
Yeah. So the problem with them not like being their regular selves, I mean, all of it stems back to the Christopher of it all, right?
Yeah.
So like Buck is not operating how Buck normally operates, which is like, he's always the one who instigates conversations with Eddie. And he doesn't do a
Mhm.
lot. He's just like,
Mhm.
hey, notice you're doing something crazy, and then just stares at him until he talks, right? So, like, I feel like if Christopher wasn't gone and something like this was happening, he'd be like, that seems drastic. Why? And then,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, if there would have been like some sort of
like a
Yeah,
conversation.
it's a conversation, but he has to be Eddie has to be confronted with it. And it's like, and Buck doesn't do it in an aggressive way. He just does it in a very, his gentle, but like, I'm throwing a logical thing in front of your face.
Mhm.
And then talk about it.
It's funny because the way like Buck handles those, and I don't think he even like notices that he does it a lot, is employing like some counseling techniques, right? Where he's asking like open-ended questions and just like he is, again, how many times do we have to say when Buck is quiet with Eddie, that gives Eddie the space to actually talk things out, which we know he has to do. And I was just thinking it kind of reminds me of in 210 Xmas, when they're at the fountain and they're waiting for Chris at seeing Santa, and Buck's just kind of like not intentionally disengaging the conversation, but he's just kind of like, we talk about that in the episode, which I don't think is out yet.
No, it comes out after this.
But will be an interesting conversation when you get to hear it. But stuff about how like Buck isn't being his usual like Buck self, asking these open-ended questions, but Eddie wants him to, so he's still like trying to engage Buck to engage him in that conversation, and this kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah,
in a
that's kind
way.
of an exception to the rule, though, I feel. Where Eddie's like, but I want you to get me to talk, because it's like every other time Eddie doesn't want to talk, but
yeah,
he can't, like, it's like he just can't say no to Buck. Like, he can't just be like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, the closest we get to that is like, I've moved on. You need to too. Like, yeah, all of this is so purposeful. It's leading to something, I assume.
Yes.
Other than him supposedly moving to Texas.
Which I'm also kind of curious. I think I mentioned this just when we were talking, but I would really like to see, or if given the opportunity to see, kind of a POV from Chris, in some way, shape, or form, to like see his
what's actually
like
happening,
daily routine. Because we're getting a lot of assumptions about what Chris wants. Right. And that's coming from both Eddie, and I think that's coming from Eddie's parents as well. But no one's actually like communicating with Chris about what he wants in a way that like we as the audience can see. So I kind of just want like little windows into Chris's world, his inner world, and to see if like maybe he really isn't loving it as much in El Paso with his grandparents as his grandparents are making it out to seem, or as much as like his dad thinks that he is, but like he's 14 years old. He doesn't have like the necessarily like, no, I mean, he's very like an emotionally intelligent child and very intuitive and everything like that. But he may not have the kind of language or the understanding of what's truly going on to be able to tell Eddie like, hey, I think I'd rather come home, when like he's the child and he's waiting for his parent to tell him to come home, So like I would really appreciate just like some kind of window into Chris's POV, which I don't think we've really gotten before, but I want to know like if he actually loves it over there, or if he's just putting up with it because he's doing what he thinks that his dad wanted him to do, which
or he's
was originally his idea, but
for
like
his dad
waiting for
to ask him to come home, because that's like quintessential kid runaway thing. But like, it's also Christopher has abandonment issues from his mother.
Yeah, big time.
So if he's not getting any signs from his father that like he wants him to come home because Eddie's trying to not pressure him, then he's unknowingly like making Christopher feel like it's not important to him.
Like, it's interesting because all three of them, Buck, Eddie, and Christopher, have very interesting abandonment issues. I would almost say that Chris's and Buck's are more similar.
Yeah.
So, like, when we talk about Buck doing things that he thinks that other people would want him to do, I kind of feel like Chris does that a little bit as well, because he's also had to grow up very quickly.
Yeah.
For a bunch of different reasons. And it's just like, what do you want?
So they really had Eddie say, whoa, that's way too much for me to handle.
That whole scene, like when we're introduced to Eddie looking at the tablet, and that is so purposefully suggestive. And it's like, I know a lot of, in a very queer way.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know a lot of people were thinking that, like, when Buck comes in, like Buck thinks that Eddie was looking at porn, but he would not be looking at straight up porn. Not that it would have been straight anyways, but no, I think it was more, I think it was more suggestive in something of maybe like, you know, him, the way Buck would have thought of it would have been like, maybe Eddie was on like some sort of dating app or on like some sort of website to purchase adult things. I don't think it was like all the way over at, you know, that suggestion, but just kind of like, you know, something a little like not safe for work, something a little risque. But it was absolutely purposefully suggestive. Yes. Especially because they came in on that shot with like not showing what was on the tablet, which just kind of set up the whole like Buck coming in thing and doing all of that, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, that was just, they did that on purpose.
On purpose.
I would like to see the script for this. I just want to see it. I mean, I don't need to see it, but I would like to see it. Because I know what that was. We all know what that was. But I just want to see what was
like, if it was an improvisational line or like if they,
I want to see if there's any direction in there.
No, but I know what you mean. Like if it was something like, it says something kind of funny, like offhanded that doesn't specify, you know, what he's looking at, or if it was like that was the line. So strange. What an interesting choice. Yeah, so anyways, that was just like a very interesting choice for them to include in that way. Curious.
Totally in line with what they're laying up. So
yeah.
Hilarious. Also, thank you for the new meme. For us to just put whatever we want on that iPad. Forever. Okay, let's just run down some of these parallels and symbolism. We have him running towards something.
But he's really it's just running away from something else.
Yeah, you know, like having to look at why he did what he did with Kim and explain that to his kid.
And, you know, running away from El Paso twice. Once when he enlisted in the army and once when he went to LA. So he thinks he's like running towards something because there's like a specific like location or goal or something like that, which he can kind of like hide behind, but it's just plain running away from stuff.
We did talk about his the parallels of the unilateral decision making with Shannon. Okay, here's a fun one. And if any of you really play chess or like you understand the symbolism in what I'm going to talk about, better please let us know. But one of our lovely listeners, Kat, Kat Chung _17 on Instagram, messaged us with like this theory, or not really theory, just saying like the writers kind of went off with like bringing up the chess thing because there's a lot of like layers. And they were like, we could talk for an entire episode about that. And I'm like, well, I don't really know anything about chess. So I did some basic Googling. Hear that, Buck? I did some basic Google searching to kind of like see what symbolism would be relevant here. So basically, if you don't know how to win chess, how you win chess is capturing the other person's king. So I put that Helena thinks that she's won the game, that she's captured the king, which is Christopher. Or she thinks she's the queen, that she can't be checkmated, that she's won this game, right? And that she's playing Eddie as a pawn, which like she is, right? Because he's playing right into her strategy, right? But we know, as the observers of this fictional story, that that's not actually checkmate. So like, what will checkmate actually be?
Right.
Could it be the will?
Ooh.
Not to make it about Buck. I just really want the will to come up. No, but I'm interested to see, like,
it has to.
It has to. But I'm interested to see what the checkmate is actually going to be. Like what Eddie is going to do when he finally wakes the fuck up and realizes what he needs to do. It can also be a metaphor for patience and precision, and then symbolize conflict, strategy, and intelligence that can help viewers understand character relationships and motivations. So. And then I have this quote from Independence Day, which I thought was like, oh my God.
Love that movie.
It's perfect. It's like in chess. First, you strategically position the pieces. Then when the timing's right, you strike. So I think that is what Helena did.
I see.
Right?
It.
That was like a long game. And she was just like waiting for
Yeah.
Eddie to fuck up.
Oh, that would make her so evil.
I think she is evil. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying she's not, but
we all hate her.
Oof.
Well, I hate her. I don't like her.
How do you not care about your kid like at all and be not evil? Sorry. But anyway, all of this to say that like I don't think the chess thing is insignificant.
I really like, thank you for thanks to Kat for pointing that out, and I think those are great pulls. I will say, thinking about it as well, knowing again the very basics of chess, that's interesting too. If we look at it like Helena thinks that she's the queen, because the purpose of the queen is, but all of the pieces, but especially the queen, is to protect the king, if we're putting Christopher as the king in this sense. And the queen can move in any direction, right? So she has the most like versatility on the board, as opposed to the other pieces that can only move in certain ways or certain patterns. So she probably thinks that she has the run of the board. But Eddie, if she's using him as a pawn, she is also severely underestimating him, because if a pawn gets all the way to the end of the other side of the board, a pawn can become a queen. Like a pawn can turn into a queen. Or I think also like whatever. I didn't even think about that part, actually.
That's genius.
Multi-layered.
Wow.
Oh my God. Well, I was gonna say, I think the pawn can turn into like any piece that the player chooses, but most people, I think, or like in specific strategies, you would choose the queen.
She can move anywhere.
Because the queen has the most versatility and the most mobility on the board. So that, if we're looking at the Christopher as a chess game, right, we have to get to a place. Oh no. So for the pawn to have to go all the way at the other side of the board, Eddie has to go to El Paso in order to, and this isn't even like checkmating the king or anything like that. It's just so he can transform from a pawn into a queen, which is so poetic on multiple levels.
But it levels the playing field.
Yeah. Yes. And then that makes you wonder, okay, so if Eddie then becomes like a queen, what is his strategy going to be to I'm not even going to say check or checkmate the king, which would be Chris. I'm saying take out the queen. And you need more strategy to that. And I think Buck would end up being part of his, I don't know that Buck would be like a king, but Buck may be like a knight or the rook or a bishop or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going with this whole metaphor, I do think that the will would need to come up as part of Eddie's a part of Eddie's strategy, because like it could just be like, because remember, so again, like I was earlier I was kind of like going into that what if territory about like him going there, whatever. But
Mhm.
and how like his parents might not take that very well either, because they
Mm.
are effectively keeping him away from
Mhm.
Christopher. So when it all if it all comes to a head, and like this is the what if territory, right?
Mhm.
They might file, I think there was like some theories that maybe
Mhm.
Helena and Ramon are going to file for custody.
If it's
Well,
actually been
jokes-
6 months, they absolutely
Yeah.
can. Because he'd be a
Depending
resident.
on which timeline you believe.
But he'd be a resident of
Yeah.
El Paso.
Like
Legally.
legally. Mm.
So if that happens, it all comes to a head. The joke's on them, because if something were to happen to Eddie, Buck gets full custody. I need a lawyer to verify that.
I don't
but,
think that. I actually don't think that this will holds up like in reality at all. So you have to suspend your disbelief.
Okay.
Because I don't think you can
Well-
actually leave custody in.
Yes, you can.
We need a lawyer. Hey, fandom, do you have a lawyer, or do I have to go to
fandom
law
lawyer?
school?
Anyone adept at fandom law? Do we have any avocados in law, please?
That autofilled
Let
so
us know.
quickly. I was like, can you leave custody? And it was like, of a child and will. Okay, yes, you can.
Of a minor.
Oh,
yeah.
You can
Oh.
designate a legal guardian for your child in a will, effectively leaving custody. Okay, legal guardian. Effectively leaving custody of the child to that person in the event of your death. Although exact term custody is not typically used in this context, the legal term is guardianship.
Okay.
Like a ward.
Custody usually refers to arrangements between living parents. Guardianship is the legal term for who will care for a child if both parents are deceased.
Full guardianship.
Okay, so
yes.
so technically Helena and Ramon have custody, but they are not the legal guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Guardian relation.
And I guess they're able to have custody just because like blood relation. Interesting. Yes, anyone who has gone to law school, is in law school, or
Yeah,
knows
to my-
anything about
To my
law.
understanding, when like the kid is this old, if it does go to court, they take into account like the kid
Well, yes.
actually wants too. So like
Mm-hmm.
even if he's still furious with his father, if it's like
Yeah.
I named Buck to be your guardian, basically your other parent, like,
Mhm. And
and he has a
let's
whole
be real.
life in LA. Like, come on.
let's also think about though, like if there were some sort of like custody battle situation that would also parallel very much to Hen and Karen's battle
Yeah, it would.
to reinstate their foster license, because there you have just another example of a kid who was taken away from their home, and it worked out in that case. So I mean, we have to like assume that it will work out for Christopher, but just to have like there is precedent already set for like this legal.
So what is
sort
going
of
on?
I'm
situation.
sorry.
here?
I'm laughing because I'm gonna talk about this in Buddie, but the fact that I have Henren, their storyline, potentially could be a parallel for a Buddie storyline, and I
Mhm.
have Athena as well. Like, okay, do we have? And I guess maybe I don't know. I'm just gonna reach and say Chim and Maddie. The fact that they have like they're growing their family and all of that. Like, I could just tie all of that into Buddie and say like, oh yeah, they're paralleling all of the main like relationship. Sorry, I'm already in Buddie territory.
I
We
mean,
need to
actually,
wrap
we
up.
are in Buddy now.
Are-
That chess thing was
are
the
we?
last thing
Yeah.
that I had.
Oh,
for any
perfect.
parallels, unless you had something else.
So the move that Helena is not going to see is the well will. The will well? The well whatever.
well
The
will.
will.
The will. The will.
Will.
The
will.
with 3 E's.
Yeah.
That's gonna be funny. I would love to see her reaction.
Oh my god.
Oh,
She's
I
gonna
would
be
pay
so
good money
pissed. So pissed.
for it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Ramon would kind of be like, I figured.
Oh, I mean,
You know,
going-
just kind of like one of those not what Eddie would be expecting sort of thing, but I don't know.
it's kind of funny when you said that, because I'm like thinking, oh yeah, he probably saw that coming. especially with like how Buck was very present in like he was, how he was very present at the last episode of season 7.
Yeah. When Chris left.
Yeah, when Chris left. And like they've never questioned it, but I'm sure like when they like left, they were like on the plane. Why was he there this entire time?
And they like don't even, I bet they don't even question like to Chris, like, who is Buck to you? You know?
They didn't think to.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That could go so many different ways. I would love to see like multiple iterations of it. I'm sure there's fanfics of it. But so speaking of which, the buddy of it all.
We finally get a buddy scene, but at what cost?
Oh boy.
Finally get Buck and
And it's
Eddie
like-
alone talking, but at what cost?
Like this is not what
Is it not
we
what we meant?
wanted or expected. Okay, let's talk about like the lead up into that, right? Because we like I think we mentioned a little earlier, we really don't see a lot of like Buck and Eddie like separate from anyone else. There's a lot of like Buck and Eddie and Tommy, or Buck and Eddie on the job, Buck and Eddie at the station. And they do interact, so it's kind of like a kind of purposeful, like pulling the wool over the audience's eyes a little bit, because it's like, yeah, this is normal. They're interacting, but not in the way that we really see them or saw as much of last season with like these heart to hearts. And you know, we never really get Eddie and Buck in the kitchen until, you know, episode 8. But like there are small things like, you know, when Eddie is playing keep away with Buck's phone at the 118 and, you know, just kind of like horsing around, and like that's very playful. And they're paired off a lot in 7 and 8 on the job. Bobby's all just like, Buck and Eddie go up the ladder, Buck and Eddie
Go with the
and
life pack.
yeah. So they're still very much paired off, which is kind of like, I'm taking it as like a luring into a false sense of security sort of thing. So it doesn't like, you're not looking into things as deeply as maybe we, the fandom audience, does. Like, it doesn't seem super out of the ordinary until we get an actual scene with them. And that's what we thought we were getting with 806, but they still actually never talk or communicate or like truly look at each other when by the time like they're on the couch. It's just like when they open the door. So this kitchen scene is really stands out in that way then, right?
I'm going to say something that's going to make me sound really stupid. I literally did not think about the fact, like I knew they were in the kitchen, but I didn't think about the connotation of them always having serious conversations
The
in the
heart to
kitchen.
hearts. Yeah, I mean, when I think of Buck and Eddie, it is usually the next thought is something about couch or something about kitchen. So I just kind of relate those. I mean, I think that is kind of purposeful as well, because in that scene you do see them operate in both of those spaces. But they are separated, you know? So it's kind of interesting, you know, like after that bomb is dropped, how Buck, you know, takes up space on the couch, but Eddie is still in the kitchen, which I guess could also mean like he still wanted, because the heart to hearts happen in the kitchen. So I guess like on his subconscious level, maybe he wanted to like actually talk about it more. But either like wasn't allowing himself
He
to.
seemed very surprised by how Buck responded to that.
Yeah.
He was so nervous to like tell him, and then like to like just talk about it at all. He was, you know, like wringing his hands and
which we
fidgeting.
Don't see Eddie do a
No.
lot. Like the little, just, you know, all that stuff. Just like very nervous tics, because he doesn't panic, right?
No, but I call it stimming, because I think he's on the spectrum. But I mean, call it whatever you want. He doesn't do it around people. We really only see him do it around Buck,
which shows how
comfortable
he is in letting all of those masks down around Buck. Meanwhile, Buck is putting a mask up because that's also not what he was expecting to see or hear. And it's so hard because we want to get into all of this. It's just like, where do we start? I mean, we kind of already have started, but should we talk about the him clocking the iPad flip or the tablet flip?
Sure. We kind of did already a little bit. But I guess to get more into the buddy of it all, Evan Buckley rolled up to Eddie's house with baked goods, and he's been doing the baked good thing, since the last episode. But everyone else was getting baked goods in saran wrap.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Or like a little tinfoil like loaf thing. He rolled up with a whole fucking gift basket wrapped in cellophane, like Martha Stewart presentation. And is like, and I'm gonna bake us snickerdoodles. So like he wasn't even done giving stuff to Eddie. So I don't know, just interesting why he felt the need to do that for Eddie.
There was a thing we were talking about this earlier about like the knock on the door.
Oh yeah.
And then we were discussing whether we thought it was actually Eddie saying like come in, like come on in, or coming.
Yeah.
Like I'm coming to the door. Because I think the subtitles say come in.
They do.
But the way the scene is played is more of a I'm coming to the door sort of thing. And that's when like Buck is already halfway through the living room.
Because if you say come in, it's because you don't want to get up to get the door. So why would he say come in and then to get the door?
Yeah. It's and then be surprised that someone is already halfway through the living room. So I think in this case, like the subtitles are a little off, and that just seems like how the scene is actually played. Which is then why Eddie gets so like kind of about Buck being there, because normally he's not, unless he's trying to hide something from Buck specifically, and Buck shows up. And Buck is just like a whirling dervish going straight into the kitchen and like knowing where everything is. Just like, I'm not a guest in Eddie's house.
Just fucking Eddie things.
Just normal hetero bro things, right?
Also, just as a complete aside, I don't know if this is really anything, but the snickerdoodles, like him saying like I was gonna bake snickerdoodles. Snickerdoodles were also like one of the 3 options that Buck gave G when they were baking, and she was like, all of them. So like
interesting.
I think it was like chocolate chip, peanut butter, and snickerdoodles. So I don't know if that's like if we can read into that, but that was like one of the 3 options.
Well, if we hear it again, we know.
Who is the snickerdoodle?
But
right?
if we hear it, but if he uses the word snickerdoodle again, we know it means something.
Yeah, it's intentional. Anyways, so I just picked up on that. But we also, as Buck is just kind of like going around the whole kitchen, we see that he is actually like just another instance of Buck being very observant and aware of his surroundings and kind of like knowing what's going on, because he sees like from the corner of his eye like Eddie flipping the tablet or the iPad or whatever, and that like ding 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 rings some alarm bells.
He's like, that's weird because we don't have boundaries.
It's like, what are you hiding from me?
So yeah, then I don't know, he just immediately gets flirty, and
what an interesting delivery of that line, right? What you looking at,
Eddie?
And this goes back to that like purposefully suggestive like entry into the scene with Eddie by himself looking at the iPad, or they keep calling it a tablet because I don't think they have the rights to call it. Anyways, whatever. So it's like, and because Tim has said we kind of see a lot of this from Buck's POV. So like, what would Buck think? And it would be probably something similar to be like not safe for work, or like a little, risque. And because why would Eddie be hiding something from him or not want him to see anything if they have no personal boundaries, which we know they don't. So, but just like the tone and like, I'm catching you doing something you don't want me to catch you doing.
And then he's like, it's none of my business, the privacy of your own home, like privacy. When has this man known privacy since you became friends with him?
Mm-mm.
And that's what Eddie's like expression is.
It's like,
He's like,
privacy.
what privacy
He's like,
in my own home?
we don't have
like you
privacy
just let yourself
or
in.
personal space or boundaries. We have never met her. We have never heard of her.
Like you literally just let yourself
Yeah.
into the house and was ruffling through all of my cupboards, like
privacy.
Right.
and you're gonna talk to me about privacy.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then he immediately grabs the iPad because, like, you know,
Of course he does. That's what Buck.
Yeah.
Buck is curious.
Yeah. sees big red button, wants to press big red button, see what happens. So, so yeah, he picks it up and like, oh, homes.com. And then, you know, just one of the most devastating things that I've ever watched unfold on.
And then we watched it in slow motion.
Yeah, frame by frame. Several
It was
times.
still devastating.
But yeah, you can see him like, you can see Buck like, I don't know. I feel like he had to have known that those were in El Paso. Like he's looking at the listings, but he's like, I need Eddie to say it. So he's like, how are you gonna afford this?
Sometimes he's, I think, a little purposefully dense. And I think this is one of those times. Sometimes he is a little oblivious, but like we just saw him like be super observant about, you know, Eddie's reaction with flipping over the tablet. So like, you know, we just saw that example. We have to think like he can read.
Yes. Confirmed that he can read. So yeah, I think he really just needed Eddie to like say it to him and
say it out loud.
Yeah.
El Paso. How long have you been thinking about going to El Paso? Sorry. So yeah, he's like, you can see him like Buck kind of like stealing himself with like as this information washes over him. And you also see Eddie just be really kind of like non-confrontational about it because he is avoiding eye contact real hard. He is fidgeting with his hands, which he doesn't normally do. So
he's really nervous for Buck's reaction.
And I think Buck is nervous for his reaction a little bit, which is why he like just like takes a breath to like, okay, like I'm taking this information in and now I'm going to plaster a smile on my face. Which is not what Eddie was expecting at all.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is getting into too fan fiction of it all. But like I just what do you think he thought Buck's response was going to be, and what do you think he wanted Buck's response to be? Because he looked very nervous, like he thought he was going to react badly. And then he also looked confused about how he was reacting. So I don't think he reacted how he thought or how he wanted.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, like we talked about earlier, like it's assumed that he's going to react badly. I feel like I think he was expecting to hear kind of like an earful, like basically what we want Buck to say, like this is a drastic decision that you're making, that you're just going to up and leave instead of, you know, trying to figure, like, you know, actually thinking about like why are you making this decision, or like what makes you think that this is a good decision to like go forward with. That's what I think. Because like, you know, we've seen this like time and time again. Anytime Eddie is doing something dumb or something, just something in general that is going to fuck his own life or fuck someone else's life, because like I'm thinking about the Anna of it all too. Buck is lightly, I'm gonna say lightly, that's probably not the word I want to use, but he's not kind of like what you said, Han. He's not aggressive in his judgment or the way he talks to him to be like, hey, this is probably not what you should be doing. So I think he was expecting that, because the minute that he does that, I think that Eddie would just cave in and say, okay, fine, you're right, this is not the best thing to do, but what else can I do?
And maybe he wanted that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Which is where I'm saying like that whole, like the whole, like them not actually talking, like it's like they're getting closer. It's like they're getting closer. They've been apart. There's like, they kind of have been apart not really, not in that like tangible way where it's like, oh, they got
Like
into a
emotionally.
fight, but they've been apart.
But
Yeah.
emotionally, and I'm sure Buck, I mean, from my understanding, has to feel like distanced from Christopher, not just because he's far
Yeah.
away, but like I don't know what contact he has with Christopher. But Eddie doesn't talk to him about Christopher.
No, he's
Well,
talking to a lot of people except
yeah,
Buck
so,
about
like,
Christopher.
about Christopher, who was actually present there when he left, and also, I think
he's blaming himself for that still. Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I was going to get at. I was like, also, Buck probably feels some sort of guilt. I feel like I said that somewhere, someday, but like that he feels kind of like guilty because normally Chris is the one that goes to him when something is wrong, and
He
like
was
this
the
one
reinforcement.
chance, this one time that he doesn't go to him, or this one time that Buck wasn't able to help Christopher in a way, or Eddie and Christopher leaving with his grandparents. I mean, he probably does blame himself, and maybe that's also like why they haven't really talked about it, because like there's just
and why
so
Buck
many
hasn't pushed.
so many layers, and then the and then the Tommy of it all, because like I said last episode, in the last special, that he was like a distraction. Like this is why they haven't been talking. Like he threw himself into that relationship instead of like actually, and yeah, he was hanging out with Eddie, but with Tommy being that buffer, and now that Tommy is gone, now he gets to kind of there's no buffer, there's no anything that's going to prevent him from actually talking about the elephant. And now we have House in Texas thing.
Yeah, I definitely think Eddie wanted and anticipated Buck to question his motives, or to question just anything about that, right? Because that's usually what Buck does. Buck kind of like pushes back in a way that like allows Eddie to really kind of like take a step back and look before he leaps, which he is so wont to do so much of the time. So for Buck to apply this kind of this same kind of like radical acceptance that he's been, instituting in his life so much towards Eddie, I think is something that he hasn't maybe quite experienced that before, because they do a lot more of like a partnership, equal playing field, push pull. And for Buck not to push back against this decision, I think took Eddie aback. And knowing him, he's going to be like, well, now I have to do it because Buck is supportive, and almost like Buck wants me to do it, and and it's just like, oh my god, no, that's not what's going on here. Like,
yeah, and I just
my
feel like,
gosh.
because like take away all the other things, but because Buck doesn't know what's going on with Christopher, doesn't know anything, like I just don't feel like he in any way felt like he had any place
A say
to insert himself into the place that he has been welcome and invited to insert himself into for 7 years. Like,
oh yeah, it's like I think at the end of the day, they both kind of surprised themselves and each other with the reaction that they did have to the other's reaction, if that makes sense. And that's not even talking about when Buck is like, yeah, let's take this, like, we are going to take this party to the couch. First of all, like, couch theory, alive and well.
I've never
again,
been more back.
Second,
again.
we've never been more back. And then, so then you have, Buck being so gung-ho, and both of them just kind of being like, what am I doing right now? And you see Eddie's reaction to that being just kind of like, okay. And then Buck sitting on the couch. And I will say, I think it's easier to parse out Eddie's reaction to that, because I think he's kind of like, oh, Buck's being supportive. Like, why would I kind of assume that he wouldn't be supportive? But also, I'm not sure that's exactly what, like, he wanted. Okay, never mind. It's not easy to parse out. It's just kind of like, here's Buck just being Buck.
That's kind of what
sort of thing.
I thought. It was like kind of surprised, but then him being like smiling because he's like, well, of course Buck is doing this. Like this is Buck.
This is what he
Buck
does.
does.
He likes to fix things.
Like
He
I don't
likes
know
to
why I
help.
was scared to tell him.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then
I don't know why I was scared to tell him. He always has my back.
exactly. So then meanwhile, Eddie is still in the kitchen, right? The place of like the heart to hearts where he maybe assumed that they were going to have more of a conversation.
Mhm.
Buck skedaddles over to the couch of all places, sits down, not in, I don't think it really matters, but not, well,
It matters.
okay, it doesn't matter in connection to 806 as much because he sits in like the spot that we can see, which parallels at the beginning of the episode 808 when Eddie is talking to Christopher, and Eddie is not sitting on the couch. He's
Like a
sitting
gay
on
person.
the can't sit in a place regular. He's sitting on
Can't
the
sit
coffee
straight.
table.
He can't sit straight.
No, he can't
No,
even sit straight.
incapable because he's not. Um, but so he's sitting on the coffee table facing the couch, and this is, if you put the two shots together of Buck sitting on the couch, waiting for Eddie to join him, and Eddie on the coffee table, like talking to Christopher, and they're both holding like the iPad in front of
Mhm.
them. It's like a perfect mirror where, like, if they were doing that at the same time and actually, I don't know, communicating, they would be face to face, like on the same eye level, the same playing field. Like, that's just a beautifully well done, like, blocking. I'm a lot obsessed with that. I really want to draw it.
You should.
It's gonna happen. I don't know when, but but like, so you have Buck waiting for Eddie to join him on the couch, which I think we can get into like in a little bit, but the reaction, the facial expression, the face journey that Buck goes
The
through,
look.
this look, whatever this look is, it's layered. That spoke volumes.
No, that look holds so much volume and so many layers and multitudes. I mean, that face journey that we go through is insane, to the point that we were all like, part of us were like, is that the O moment? Or some of us, and then the other half of us is like, it's not the O moment, but it's something.
It's a moment.
It's a moment.
Jinx.
Yeah.
I think in our
And-
live react, we were like, "What was that look? What was what
Mhm.
was that? What was that?"
Mhm.
I think we were like literally whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
What was that about?
Yeah,
Mr. Buckley.
And I think we were all pretty unanimous in not believing that it is the O moment, but like,
But- If you watch it
but
in reverse,
oh my god, you need
it
to.
looks
I know-
like an O moment.
I know the editors have probably watched that moment so many times, and maybe they know what we're talking about. If we have any editors listening, that is an
No,
O
like-
moment in reverse.
Because we were watching it together frame by frame, and then you were like reversing it. It's just playing it backwards, but instead of like the smile falling and looking into like the I don't know what this is, what this feeling is, it goes from the I don't know what this feeling is to realization. And it took me out. It's so bizarre, not bizarre, but like wild to me that is so far like the closest kind of preview into an OO moment that we've gotten so far. Like that is what it's gonna look like
So there was
eventually.
So there was a tweet on my timeline, I think day after the episode, that was like a comparison between and Dean, not the scene that I'm thinking of, but so it was really funny. I'm just gonna. This is a small like supernatural segue, but it's going to kind of tie into what we're talking about. But like when
Typical us.
when I was watching the scene, I was like, this I've seen this film before. Where? And I didn't like the ending.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody put like a side by side of like Dean and Buck making this face, but I don't think that the Dean screen cap is from like the confession episode. I think it was from somewhere else. But that being said, I was like, it was a Dean Winchester thing. I've seen this face on Dean Winchester. Welcome back, Dean Winchester. Close enough, but welcome back. That being said, so that whole thing where we're talking about like reversing the scene. So what I've done in edits before, I did it for a Destiel edit, I think, like after the confession came out, or probably a couple months after the confession came out. I did like a reverse of this one of the scenes, or when it's like specifically on Jensen or Dean's coverage, I did a reversal, and it's kind of similar. It's like in reverse, it was like, oh, like like a similar look of like an oh moment. So it's kind of interesting.
Do you know what that feels like though? It feels like it trying to surface and them shoving it down, which is what I think this kind of was. I think this was it was a journey. It was a multitude of feelings, which is why his face goes through
so much,
you know, all the stages of grief.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the smile drops, and then he's like, he's leaving. I'm getting left again. And then he's like, then it's like he looks gut punched, and it's like, I think he's realizing like, this does not feel like how getting left normally feels. Like, what is that? Because like,
it's something he's familiar with, right? Being left.
And he has masks
so why does
for
this
that,
one,
right? He has masks for that.
And this isn't the one that he usually wears. Well, so it's like, why does this one feel so different?
And then it's like, it's like you can visibly see him like shake it off.
Shake it off. Shake it off.
Right? Like, it's like he's like, no, or like, you know, it's like he's shoving it back down because he's like, I can't. No. The one time he sees the big red button is like, nope. I'm fine.
And the whole thing is that this is Eddie. This is Eddie who's supposed to have his back. This is Eddie who, I guess he never really thought that he would like get up and leave. Like in a permanent sense.
Yeah. And it's like,
so it hurts.
It was bad enough when he just left the 118, like,
and that was still in the same city,
and they still were hanging out.
Yeah. How's he gonna deal? Like, not that it's all about Buck, but like, we're looking at it in
the Buddy section. It is half about Buck, so
it is half about Buck. So like, how is he gonna deal when Eddie is like 100 miles away? Like, and it's like I keep using like two different metaphors. I'm sorry. I think figuratively. But a lot of that reaction is you know, stuff like if his little mind is a pot on a stove and things were like starting to come to a bubble or a boil, he slammed that lid on so fast so that it wouldn't.
Still gonna boil over.
Now it's just like, it's simmering just under the surface now. It's going to boil over at some point, right? And the other,
especially
way
if he
I keep
keeps
thinking
pushing
of it,
down his feelings about what's going on with Eddie,
exactly,
because he's trying to be supportive and help him, and if he's not gonna address any of those feelings, let alone talk about them,
it's going to blow up like a grenade. I think it's not a full realization yet. I think he's on his way. I think in his little like hallway on his way to realization of things, right? There are multiple doors that he has to walk through. I think he's walked through the first one, or one of the first ones, where it's like, this is something. I'm not going to investigate that right now because I'm trying to be a happy-go-lucky Buck.
And this is something that, before realizing that he also liked men, that I don't think he would have pushed down so hard immediately. Because with that comes awareness of things feeling.
Because it's like, because then he has to look at it as, not only is this his best friend doing this, but this is like, there's that added layer of like, Eddie is a man, and you know, there may be feelings attached to that are more than best friend sort of thing. And we already know he's kind of like not really looking into like the sexuality aspect of things like very deeply right now. So like he's at this point now he's actively
I think it's because if he does, he's gonna realize he's in love with Eddie. Like
exactly. And that is the crux of, I think, the entire reason why they've been kind of keeping Buck and Eddie at arm's length from each other, like emotionally the whole time, because if you put them together long enough, they're going to like something's going to happen, right? So what do is you
Conceal,
keep
don't
them
feel.
separate. Yeah, conceal, don't feel. But like you have to. So what you do to prevent your characters from truly moving forward in a certain direction that would happen if they were naturally like closer together, right? Is you keep them apart, and that is, I think, the whole reason for them doing the Eddie, you know, I'm moving to El Paso sort of thing. It is specifically to ramp up the tension, to raise the stakes, to provide a more agonizing, like more angst-filled, slow burn, like so
it's
many of
about
us.
the yearning.
It's
all
about the
about
yearning. Like so many of us really want to see and kind of revel in a little bit, because like if they didn't have anything kind of like happening in this way for either Eddie or Buck in a way that like really affects both of them truly, like it would just kind of be like a, okay, they're together now. Like, no, you have to really put them through the horrors, right? and I think that's what the El Paso thing is. So my opinion is I don't think that we're going to see Eddie in El Paso in any sort of like permanent basis, if we even get that far. But I think it is narratively the like one of the obstacles that are put in place right now that makes the stakes higher for when they each have their realizations. And it's just gonna make it really juicy.
Okay, so some parallels and symbolism that I caught on after the episode was, so I thought it was really interesting, and someone pointed out to me that it was from the same writer. So like Athena looking for a home or shopping around for a home and then ultimately deciding to build that home. That episode was also, I think the writer is the same. I don't know if is it episode 2? I don't even remember. But anyway, like it was written by the same person. And
oh, are you talking about
episode 4?
Molly Green and James Leffler? They wrote episode 1.
They wrote episode 1. Anywho, someone pointed that out to me, but I just thought it was really interesting that they were paralleling Athena, because Buck is helping Eddie choose a house, because he does say to Eddie, you know, I don't trust you to pick a nice house, and that to me is kind of like, well, this is what, like, ultimately it's kind of like them building them looking for the perfect home, but the perfect home is where they are right now, is basically
like the foundations are already there.
Yeah, instead of trying to find a nice place in Texas, like he could just not and rent an Airbnb. That's the joke.
I don't know.
He doesn't have to go all the way.
Have a conversation over FaceTime with his son.
Yeah. Or go visit. Rent a hotel room.
Yep.
For a weekend.
There's
amazing.
Groundbreaking.
Also, this isn't parallels. I don't know if this is a parallel or symbolism, but so I know we kind of already talked about it, but there was one thing I wanted to point out, which was in episode 6, we have Eddie not choosing to drink the juice, or choosing to, instead of just, getting water instead, because he doesn't he feels like he needs to be punished and not feel joy. And then in that same episode, he can't be fruity. Yeah, and then in that same episode, Buck comes in with the beer. He gives Buck the beer. He takes it. He's like, all right, cool. Buck coming in with his like baked goods, and he just like shoves a scone at Eddie. Like he just gives it to him, and then Eddie's like, he's like, he looks at it. He kind of does the same thing that he did with the beer. He like
He
looks at it,
does.
and then he's like, all right, cool, I'm accepting it, and then he eats it, and then he's like, oh, this is really good.
that's pretty
And I'm like
good.
I'm trying to remember if there's any time where we see Eddie accepting or enjoying
Mm,
any kind of like sweets, or maybe it's like something around the lines of like, this is Buck giving something
indulging.
Eddie, and now he's taking the opportunity to indulge in it.
I have a
Mm.
stupid symbolism thing.
Love it. Go for it.
He gave him beer, which is like wine. He gave him a scone, which is like bread. So
I knew exactly what you were about to
Oh.
say.
he's communing at the
Mm.
Church of Buck because Buck is his religion. Buck is who he has faith in. Stupid, but also true.
You know what? That's not stupid. I think that's really
Thank you.
smart. You cooked.
That was good, yeah.
You baked. You baked with that one. Both of you baked with it.
I was gonna say before, because I had to remember that it was beer that Buck gave him. I was actually gonna be like, oh, Buck is giving him sweetness, which is like equivalent to like care, and like something that, you know, he's kind of like hasn't accepted, and now he's like accepting every single time that Buck is just giving him something. So
Mhm. No questions asked.
yeah, now it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I can't wait to put Church of Buckley and copy somewhere in social media.
Give us this day our daily scone. We'll workshop it.
I love that. I love that, Sil.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
I think I'm done with mine.
I just wanted to very, very briefly bring up the color theory thing again, you know, the red and blue and everything. So I know some people have pointed out that Buck wearing like the dark kind of bluish color and Eddie wearing like the darker red in episode 8 is very similar to when Chris left it at the end of season 7. So they're talking about El Paso, so that's already like mirroring kind of their same outfits in that. But also I want to investigate a little bit very quickly the fact that Eddie in both of his scenes at home, like when he's talking to Chris, he's wearing this like dark red or maroony kind of like Henley or short sleeve Henley, and then he's wearing, it's a very similar color to the button up that we see at the end of the episode. And I just think we know Eddie's color is blue, right? But I do think it's interesting that we see him in these really dark, deep, heavy, like maroony red colors after we see him dance around in his pink Oxford shirt with the risky business, because it's still part of the same color family, right? But it's just like so much deeper, so much kind of like burdened, repressed a little bit, because there's the tint has so much more black than white, which would be the pink. So I just thought that was interesting that he's still wearing like the same color family, but in this episode where he feels so much heavier, especially and he's not really finding his joy. And I think, I don't know if anyone else has dubbed it this, but I'm calling the pink that we also see at the bachelor party in last season, I'm calling it like a freedom pink.
Cute.
Okay, so it's just interesting that it's like the same color family but just like so much richer, deeper, burdened. And then also speaking about the red and blue of it all, the Texas print that's hanging up behind the couch, which we did see in 806. It has, the shape of Texas, but inside, Texas is spelled out in red, and all surrounding it is this dark blue, which matches what Buck and Eddie are wearing. So if Eddie is talking about going back to Texas, he would be in Texas, and Buck wearing that dark blue is on the outside. Again, something about that.
So I have a tweet from Eddie Divas, where they noticed so far this season that the Diaz house has been shown in like warm lighting during like delicate, vulnerable, intimate, and maybe romantic
Yes.
moments. But then when Eddie introduces Buck to the idea of of his what? The idea of, I guess, moving to Texas, like the color is the color gradient. Well, the coloring in that scene,
Grading.
the color grading in that scene, it's like more light, and I guess like it's more of a like cold,
Cool
Washed
tone,
out.
blue
wash,
tone.
cool, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting that someone noticed that, because it does feel like I don't think we've really seen that this season until now, where
Mhm.
where Eddie's house isn't really like washed into
Warm.
those warm tones.
Mhm.
And now, like, with him delivering that news, it's like, it's just cold. Like, it's like
It gives it a very empty feeling,
Mhm. Yeah.
which
Do you know what's really fun to think about?
is gonna hurt, huh?
I mean, if you just think about how Buck has been in the place that he feels most at home with the people who he loves the most, while he loses half of that family and then loses the rest of them.
You're losing me.
Mhm.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Oh my god, I hope he moves into that house.
Oh my god, yeah.
I want Eddie to leave for like a little bit just so we can get that
Angst.
angst and that Abby parallel.
Oh. Oh my god, that would eat.
It would.
Cuz it feels more like home to Buck than Buck's home does,
Mhm.
but like would it
But
really
no, it's
feel
not
like
going to feel like home
if
because
nobody's
yeah.
there? Because home is a people, not a
Mhm.
place. Oh man.
I keep thinking about like the whole breaking the cycle thing, and like, you bring up Abby. Are you talking about like the airport scene?
Well,
Or are you
sure, that
talking about
too.
both the airport
I'm talking
scene
about
and
him
the
living in her apartment while she's gone after he takes her to the airport.
yeah.
So if we get Buck taking Eddie to the airport, getting some sort of parallel shot
Mhm.
to a different Florence and the Machine Annie cooked with that. Did you see that tweet that Annie had about the different?
No.
So I think this is like a reuniting scene, or maybe he just doesn't leave, like he changes his mind. But basically, do you know "Never Let Me Go" by Florence and the
Yeah.
Machine?
Probably.
But they were like, so we get an airport scene, but with this instead of
Okay, I'm gonna have to listen
Shake
to
It
that
Out.
song.
Mm.
Oh my god.
No, that would be good, because what I was thinking was, like, we get that airport scene, we get that same shot, and it's either he goes through the doors, he goes through the glass doors, or Eddie comes out of those glass doors, whichever one we really want to,
Mhm.
instead of him just like staring despondently and,
Ugh. Oh my god. Devastating. Did we have any more parallels?
I think one I wrote down is really quick, just the three of us don't know exactly the last time that Buck actually used his key. I think it was season 5 is what we figured out.
Mhm. Somewhere around there, I think.
Yeah, so we were talking last night about like Buck knocking versus ringing the doorbells versus using his key, and kind of equating that to like his headspace, and then like how close or how distant he feels with Eddie at the time. So like doorbell is like, I feel most distant, or maybe knocking is actually. What do you
I
think?
think knocking
I don't know,
is
because like I think
knocking.
he's only used the doorbell the one time in
In 7?
Confessions.
No, he used the
No,
door. He used it
he
in season
used the
7.
back door. He knocked.
Oh.
Wait.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a knock.
I thought he rang the doorbell when the episode that Chris leaves. I can't remember.
Yes, I think he did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I think he did.
I don't remember now.
Oh goodness. Anyway, TLDR. Basically, if he lets himself in, he's feeling good and secure, like in his
Or
place
safe.
in the Diaz household. So that's, he hasn't used his keys since season 5 that we know of for sure.
I know.
I think I also talked about how I think the assumption, like the general audience assumption, is that he uses the key for emergencies only. But then we were trying to figure out like how does this track with or tie into with like him coming in with the baked goods in this episode. And then I think we landed on, it's an emergency because he was thinking about calling Tommy.
Yes.
He's
So
manic,
he knocked,
yeah.
but then he used his key
Just
because
walked right on through because he needed to be around Eddie
Mhm.
to take his mind off stuff, which it did.
Tommy who?
I don't think it made it better.
Tommy who?
Yeah, forgot about him real quick.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think very briefly there's a couple things of like we call it into the looking glass, so some things to like kind of keep in mind or season parallels. So one thing that I thought of to keep in mind with reintroducing Detective Romero in 808 with the cart cop case, I thought was probably intentional and a clever way to kind of bring him back into the fold, because we'll probably be seeing him again in 809 and 810 with the potential serial killer storyline. So it would just make sense that he would be on the case. So I thought that was like a smart way to kind of like, you know, get the audience to be like, oh yeah, remember this guy? He exists. And then for some season parallels, I don't know if it's anything yet, but like in these last two episodes specifically, there were a couple mentions of like, you know, miracles. So like Chimney's Hotshots cameo was like when Brad Torrance's character woke up from the coma, he was like, it's a miracle. And Bobby being like, I'm not a miracle worker, when the chief was, you know, trying to get him to talk to Gerard and make him into a better version of himself. And we just see like a lot of mentions of miracles in previous seasons, stuff like you know, even going back to Chimney and his surviving the rebar incident. His doctor calls it a miracle. There's a bunch of different things. And maybe like Bobby's miracle blood that we never talk about again, which I would love to revisit somehow. And I was like, ooh, maybe it's like a tie to some sort of like, maybe Bobby's cut that out. Anyways, so just like a lot of like miracle talks. And some parallels to season 2, which Tim Minear has specifically mentioned, where he told TV Insider that the way they ended the first half of season 8, he said it kind of reminds him a little of how they ended season 2 with that finale, where everybody had their little happy endings, and there was always a question of whether Buck would be able to return. And that's kind of what they were going for here, but they wanted to have everybody together back for at least a moment until we come back for 8B, and then he can just throw a giant hand grenade into everything. His words. So,
A grenade, huh?
interesting stuff. Yes. There's
Interesting.
so much of his like very specific wording that I just want to like mention.
That's
so
sus.
kind of what we know about what's coming next, right? So we're going to come back in March 6th with 809, which has yet to be titled, and 810, which has also yet to be titled the week after, and it's most likely going to be a 2-part premiere or a 2-part return, which makes sense. That seems to be what they do anyways.
That's what the promo says. The promo says it's a 2-part.
I meant to relook at the
Yeah.
promo and I didn't, because just like as a general thing, like promos are
Misleading.
or next
Mhm.
episode previews are so misleading. And I know there's some talk about like some really kind of maybe obvious kind of intentional ADR or like dubbing of words and lines, and how they like edit them together to make you to lead you on to something. But then the episode itself is kind of a little different. And then I have some Tim Minear did some interviews about what we can anticipate going forward for 8B, stuff about I'll talk about just like for Hen and Karen, he feels like there will be some joy coming, like there has to be some joy coming. So I mean, again, take these with a grain of salt, right? So like maybe Hen and Karen will get a little bit of a break with Maddie and Chimney. there's a possibility of the baby being born in season 8, but they don't know yet because they still haven't written everything. However, 809 will be revisiting themes from 806, where Maddie was telling Chimney that she was pregnant and that the pregnancy will factor in not insignificantly in 809 and 10, which we kind of get a little bit from the promo. But again, to what extent, we don't know yet. For Bobby and Athena, Tim said there's been some like ideas floating around about like, is Athena gonna retire? And he says it feels like it's way too early for her to retire. So I think we're safe from that at the moment. And that the new house storyline for Bobby and Athena will feature heavily in specifically episode 11. There's not going to be a time jump when we come back to 809. We might see Robbie back, which would be fantastic.
He also said there wasn't much of a time jump between 7 and 8, so I don't fucking believe a word.
I don't know.
This man says.
Listen, I trust them with everything in the show except to know timelines. Yes. The 6 months, 3 months,
or for Tim to tell the truth,
or for Tim to tell the truth.
In press articles.
Wait, so the time jump was debunked coming back? Because I thought
Peter said something about, I think there's going to be a time jump, but then Tim says
no,
there's not going to be a time jump.
Oh,
so who knows? I'm kind of inclined to believe there wouldn't be much of one. Tim also said, if you felt like something wasn't touched on sufficiently in the first 8, you're going to get everything you probably want in the back 10. So it seems like they're really going to be, and he says, like, hitting the ground running for the last 10 episodes. And he says, episode 10 is going to be thrilling. It's going to be a thriller. And by the end of episode 10, everybody's life has changed. So he likes to tie up all of these loose ends and reunite the 118 for like the mid-season finale, and then and have it seem like all is right with the world. And then, and I quote, blow it the hell apart.
Of course.
So that's fun.
Hand grenade, blow it the hell apart. Interesting.
And there's a couple more.
I don't think we've revisited that on the Buddie Greatest Hits yet, have we?
No. I don't think we have. So he mentions the grenade. And I want to, because Tim Minear is the Taylor Swift of network television, and everything he says is a little Easter egg often. So his wording is very, specific on certain things, and he talks about, Eddie's decision to move to El Paso. He says 3 times, no less than 3 times, to 3 different publications, Eddie is dead serious about moving. I'm sorry, dead serious. And I do want to at least,
or
devil's
now
advocate, right? He says for now.
What do you mean?
And just to devil's advocate and caveat a little bit, for a lot of these, I'm pretty sure they were done in the same day or within like a couple days of each other, like all of these interviews. So like, how sometimes you kind of get in your head like a specific phrasing, but there are so many other ways that you could say that. And the fact that he said dead serious about moving 3 times, it's very interesting to me. We also see something like that. We see something like that again when he's talking about Buck, about how Buck will be spinning like a top. He says that 3 times also. He also, like, come
I know,
on.
funny haha, but also, what do spinning tops do? They spin really fast, and then they fall over or crash into something.
Fall apart.
Yeah.
And
Timothy.
Tim does say that Buck is going to feel even more abandoned by the time we get to 10. And he's going to find a short-lived distraction to latch on to keep from spinning out of control. He'll find that when they come back, and we'll see about how long that lasts. These relationships don't tend to last all that long. So I feel like he kind of gave a little thing away here where maybe like Buck is back on the dating horse or the hamster wheel or something like that, which I think will lead into some theories that we have. And then Buck's story when we come back is more centered about what's going on with Eddie and what he's about to lose there. And then he'll, of course, end up putting all of his anxieties and neediness. He'll find something else besides baking to funnel that into. So it's just, there are multiple times that he says Eddie is dead serious. Buck is spinning like a top. He likes to blow it the hell up, and like lots of blowing up and specific grenade mention. And so I'm just like, why are you telling me all this? And then he's all like, enjoy your 3 months of peace. And
Is it really?
Is it? No, I don't think I will.
I don't think it's peace. So,
No.
okay.
You just left us in an asylum.
For real.
Mhm.
That's where he wants us.
They forgot to come and take us away.
Okay, I guess this is a good transition into dual near-death experience.
So this is our like our what if kind of looking forward, our little Sherlock cat moments,
These are,
right?
educated guesses, but also
And wishes.
Educated wishes.
and clown makeup sometimes. So,
Boop, boop, boop.
dual near-death experience. Now I'm starting to think it's gonna be with a grenade.
Yeah. I don't know. There's something to it.
We have like the car couple might have been foreshadowing for a dual near-death
I
experience.
kind of think so.
Where the man said, "I'm not leaving." Eddie took the place of him. Being a medic. We keep seeing all these reminding us that he's a medic this entire season.
Yep.
They're like, in case you
That's
forgot.
purposeful. The girl was also wearing red, so that could have been either of them at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought there was something with like the car couple and
the fact that it was them saving them.
Yeah. And that Eddie took the place inside the car, I thought was like, interesting.
So here's my specific wish. We'll call it educated, sure. Whatever circumstance they find themselves in, we're going to assume they have time to talk because they're stuck. They're trapped, right? They can't get anywhere. That's why, and they could possibly die. So I'm thinking that it's going to be a fight where it parallels that conversation with Shannon that Syl brought up earlier.
Yep.
Where Buck is like, you just unilaterally make decisions for people, think you always know what's best, and you don't even take into consideration what they want. And Eddie will be like, you martyr yourself and then get angry when blah, 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 blah. Like, I just feel like it would be a fight.
Like you think you're expendable,
Yes,
but
think
you're
expendable,
wrong.
blah, blah, blah.
Redux,
So I just see them like fighting and like with each, turn, they get closer and closer and closer. And then they kiss.
But yeah, that would be like such a perfect way for them. Like the tension is ramped up. They're keeping them apart. So like inevitably, when the pot that Buck's putting a lid on is going to come to a boil, like they have to have some sort of like confrontation, communication. That has to be the moment where they actually talk to each other, and then just like boom. What have we talked about with like season 2? Like boom, explosion, chemistry, the pressure. This is season 2 all over again.
Alternatively, maybe they don't kiss. Maybe Buck angrily confesses.
Oh, I don't care what iteration it is, but like we need a confrontation with them. We need it to parallel stuff with like the Shannon of it all, this like and then like previous conversations that they've had.
This is the season of like Buddie's greatest hits.
Yeah,
they need to address all of those greatest hits,
and that would be like
their first greatest hit was when they were in a dual near-death experience together in an ambulance. They were literally with a grenade.
Yeah, they were literally sequestered into an ambulance, which is essentially like being locked in a storage closet, right?
Maybe we'll get real close.
Eddie, that gif that's going around, making the rounds of Eddie with his hand on Buck's.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it would just be just like nom 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 nom. So like you ramp up the tension, you like raise the stakes, especially with like a near death experience sort of thing. And it's just like, this is the angst, this is the longing, this is the slow burn that like is delicious.
All about that yearning. And all about
give
the
it to me
near-death
in like
experience.
50 different
Also,
ways,
alternatively,
you know?
we can do just a near-death experience for one of them.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
And the other has to save him.
They are doing a lot of foreshadowing for possibly Buck.
Buck specifically.
Tell
there's
anyone
a lot
you're
of,
dead and die. Don't jump.
from 3 different episodes from 3 different people.
Interesting.
Come on. Oh, okay. I was just going to say, this kind of brings us to the theory of like, you know, even though the promo for the mid-season premiere is about like, you know, it says they have like Maddie is being kidnapped. There's a great theory that I am definitely subscribing to, that maybe it is multiple iterations, but like maybe it's not just Maddie, maybe it's Maddie and Buck, maybe it's only Buck getting kidnapped. That would be real interesting. Do you want to go into it for a second?
Yeah. We'll link the theory because I don't need to like really get into the nitty gritty of it. But basically, I think, I mean, this doesn't have to be related, but people are like, what if Buck goes on a date?
I kind of
with
love
the
this idea
killer?
though. I think that would tie so many things together of like,
that's great.
Buck trying to, you know, explore himself and his sexuality a little more.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry. One of the biggest death foreshadowings for Buck is out of his own fucking mouth and masks in his monologue at the graveyard at the end when he says, I can't imagine anything worse than going through life alone, except for maybe one thing, going through death alone. So that's what leads me to believe that like even if Maddie is also abducted, like he's not going to be near her. So he's going to be alone.
Or like she might be used as bait for him or something like that. So yeah, I feel like if he went on a date with the serial killer, because it looks like a woman that's abducting Maddie with like the tendril of hair, which I think I'm pretty sure is going to be the guest star Abigail Spencer, because she was announced as like a guest star and she's been in a lot of stuff. So like they don't usually announce guest stars unless they're going to have like a fairly prominent role in the next like couple episodes. So but to go back, if Buck were to go on a date with someone who ends up being like the serial killer, that would kind of like 2 birds, 1 stone, what Tim is saying about how Buck is like exploring things, but also trying to like find a different like outlet, but also something that doesn't last very long. And specifically these relationships, which I think he probably like
is misdirecting for the let Buck fuck. Is misdirecting to the let Buck fuck
a little bit, but I think he's also I think he's also like, you know, alluding to that kind of thing, because he said relationships. I'm not sure he meant to say that, but I think that is definitely alluding to that hashtag. But I'm not sure he meant to like specify these relationships, which is why we're thinking that like Buck is going to be on dates with people and stuff. But that would, and then that person ends up being the serial killer, so of course it wouldn't last very long, right? So and more abandonment issues.
A thing that I didn't notice because I was paying too much attention to that scene, to the behind the scenes photo of Ryan in that white shirt with jeans, and when we were all like, oh my god, we're gonna get shooting, oh my god, we're gonna get the shooting, he's in a fucking police station. So that is leaning way into the theory that Buck is getting abducted.
And also really interesting that neither Jennifer Love Hewitt or Oliver Stark were in that video from behind the scenes as well, which leads me to believe that they were not on set at that moment, which where else would they be unless they're in another location, their characters.
And maybe they have some makeup that we can't really look at.
Which, like, I don't want Maddie to get kidnapped at all, because, like, she's pregnant and she's been through enough. And, like, please no.
No, but, like, it could...
Buck is fine.
Like, it could also be, like a Jonah...
Like a misdirect.
like a Jonah
situation.
hen and chimney parallel kind of thing.
Which they also haven't done either. So that would be a really interesting parallel.
So yeah,
So
I don't know.
lots-
I know that
lots
like
to
you
chew on
can't
with
trust
that, huh?
promos. So like I'm not trying to throw
However.
my whole clown makeup car get up behind it, but like I love it.
This is
and
just
it's
what we're
making
having
sense.
fun with
All
right now.
The dots are connecting.
We're connecting the dots. Yeah, and like, come on, blow something up, and which would also like the whole Buck being kidnapped and stuff would lead into like the whole like his abandonment issues are going to take front and center as well. Whether it's Maddie that gets abducted and he's like trying and as bait for him and he's trying to find her because he can't reach her, or the opposite where he's abducted and he thinks that no one may be looking for him or that help isn't going to come. Oh my God, what if it relates to Help Is Not Coming, season 2, episode 3, in which case that might have maybe Eddie helps come to the rescue because like Buck and Eddie were in the hotel and with the earthquake, and for that one I don't know.
I was just thinking about like how because okay, we just got like a weird we got a look from Buck that was like, oh, there are some feelings that I can't explore right now because I'm trying to be supportive, and then I'm thinking about like if Buck is the one that's getting abducted and, you know, Eddie eventually learns about it, like why is it like maybe we can get like another like obviously not feelings realization, but like some kind of realization, a different kind of like
for Eddie?
like a different kind of reaction, like you know what I mean, that could pave the way to, well, where we want to go.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
I also think it would be nice timing if like Eddie was supposed to be on his way to Texas when this happens, and that's why Buck really thinks that no help is coming.
Oh, that's dastardly.
Oh, that's evil.
But
I love it.
You know, they call him and he turns around like immediately and like
he's like at the airport and he's like he gets a call and he's like, I got off the plane, right? Oh gosh.
I'm just saying.
Guys, write the fic. You got 3 months.
Oh, so sad. Refreshing my AO3 like
oh my God, constantly.
Every hour.
I have so many tabs open right now.
Oh yeah. I keep just like opening new ones every time I see like people are cooking and like continue. I love it.
We love
we're eating.
To see it.
So like that's the week immediately like following the episode, kind of like what we're thinking. I'm sure there will be more theories that we'll come up with and like play around with, but like that's a lot to chew on for a while. So I think we'll be pretty set during these like 3 months, 100 something plus days.
Stop saying 100 plus days.
I'm sorry. We need a countdown.
Stop. I want to know about the days. I want to know about the months.
Trenton's doing a countdown. We don't need to do it. It's fine.
I know. He usually starts at like 70 something.
I think he said he needed at least a week. I saw him tweet something earlier.
Good. Keeping us all together. Bless. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what else we'll be cooking up like fandom as a whole like during this hiatus. I feel like it's going to be different than the summer hiatus,
which was horny. This is going to be angsty. I'm excited. Why not both?
That's such a great balance though, right?
I'm here for Winter of Angst.
Listen, por qué no los dos, right? Why not both? Or all of the cookie dough.
It's the best answer.
We had fucking the Tommy of it all in the summer, so we needed to go into Buck Fidelity because I remember we hated the idea at first, and they were like, you know what?
You were like,
I need that man.
Fuck this man. I mean, don't.
We need that.
Fuck him over. Thank you.
Need that man gone.
Boy, bye.
Now we're here. Winter of Angst.
Yeah, it's either like the 806 codas or the 808 codas, which are also vastly different.
And my brain just went, how do you shorten Winter of Angst? Wankst.
You know?
Yeah.
It does the trick.
Anyway, I'm here for the winter.
I'm
here for the
Winter of Angst.
I'm here for the wanks. Because I really do need, but that's my point. I really need angst now. Shut up. Winter of Angst. I'm here.
No, we have to call it that.
I'm here for the Winter of Angst because I was getting, I just really needed some really good buddy angst that wasn't like tied to that man. I was getting sick of that man.
Just like pure,
pure, just the two
pure
of them,
yearning.
angst, yearning, and like high stakes. I need that right now.
It's the perfect setup.
It is.
This is good storytelling.
This is the shit we love.
Seems like everybody else is on board with it too. So that's always nice.
It's nice when we all get along. Can't we all be buddies?
Can't we all get along for the holidays, please? Please. It's my my request from fandom.
Your wish.
All we want for Christmas
Your
is
Christmas wish.
no fandom wars. Thank you.
Yes, especially the
War is
internal
over.
ones. The external one was fine, but we're done with him.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We're done
No
with
more
him.
inside.
Mm-mm.
No inside factions.
That's not gonna be possible.
Oh, it's happening. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah. Can't wait until we come back.
I can't wait to see how they're gonna torture Buck and Eddie, but like
Ugh.
mostly Buck because he seems like he like is being really evil to him. Like specifically, I mean, like always,
Well-
because he is like, I know it's an ensemble show, but the show is told from his point of view the most. He is the main protagonist. It's
yeah.
how we're introduced to the show. He has the most shit happen.
Yeah.
He's the favorite punching bag.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
And it's also because like season 7, we didn't really give him any like
That's
high stakes.
Exactly.
Now he's paying for it.
Mm-hmm. Comes as a price. Anyways,
Oh, we're done.
remember, don't move to Texas.
But if you do,
Take a buddy with you.
thank you for listening to the Buddy System podcast from start to finish.
We literally cannot shut up about 911, so please come talk to us on your favorite social media platform.
We're at Buddy System Pod everywhere. That's BUDDIE System Pod.
Leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts to get a personal shout out in the next episode. The Buddy System is a Nerd Virgin media production featuring music from Divinity.
Can't get enough of the buddies? Subscribe to our Patreon for access to exclusive content and our Discord community.
Catch you next time. And don't forget,
Bring a buddy with you.